All right. Well, things are acting a little bit weird today. If I log in from a second account, I see plenty of people already in here, but if I stare at the actual screen that I'm hosting from, it doesn't show a single person inside. So I'm waiting for Alex to join, and I haven't heard from him yet. Hopefully he'll be joining, but now I'm a little bit concerned that I won't be able to see him actually join. So that's a little worrisome, but I think we're going to need to begin so that we don't delay any longer. Um, since there is currently no co-host, I want to give some people some freedom to request to speak and talk about anything that you might have not had an opportunity to discuss last week, or that you want to reflect on from last week, or potentially something that's happened this week, whether or not we get to it at some point or not. So go ahead and request to speak as I start the show. Um, so last week I made an impromptu statement off of memory, basically stating that Dan Rather, back in the Bush years when Bush was running for reelection, had run a story basically accusing him of avoiding service in the military, and that was one of the first instances of sort of mass citizen journalism done on the internet. And I said, based off of my memory, that it was a Selectra typewriter, and that the way that they identified it was something involving like the letter T and the way that it placed, and that the types of the way that the character spacing was working wasn't really possible back then. And my memory was decent, but it wasn't perfect, so I want to make that correction. It was a Selectric typewriter, so not Selectra, like I said. And the one of the actual tells that the person who had fabricated the document had used Microsoft Word as opposed to a typewriter, a contemporaneous typewriter, was that the font was a true type font, and the biggest tell was that the character R could be placed under the roof of the letter F in any two letter characters of FR, and that cannot happen on the typewriters. Now, I see on the other account that Alex has joined. However, he doesn't appear at all, just like everyone else. So, we may have to restart the space abruptly and quickly, simply because I literally see absolutely nobody unless I log into a secondary account. Let me see if I can do it a long about way. Let me see if this is possible. Bear with me, everyone. Going to attempt to see if I can trick it by connecting from another screen to invite Alex as a co-host, hoping that it allows me to do this from the phone, manage the whole thing from the phone. If this doesn't work, I will restart the space and we will begin again.
Hello.
All right, excellent. Let me see if
What?
let me see if I can exit now here without killing the whole space. Are you still with me, Alex?
I'm still here. Yes.
Okay. You're going to have to do management duties because literally I see nobody. So
Not even dead people.
no, not even dead people. No, literally my screen is blank. I had to add you from the phone by logging into the space a second time, which is risky because then if I try to exit it, it could end the space abruptly. So you are in charge of managing requests to speak and such things. Now,
Very good.
with great power comes great responsibility, and I don't want you to get
I will make
all this
I will make
power.
sure to absolutely not use this power at all,
All
and
right.
just speak by myself for hours.
That doesn't sound like a fair way of playing the responsibility game here, but all right. How has your dumb week been otherwise?
It's good. It's good. If you want, I don't know. Are you going to try to sort of jump in and out now? I can give you an update on the X.com um, debt issuance issue.
Go ahead. Well,
If
I
you
just did a
want.
correction from last week on my memory of the Dan Rather
Yeah,
situation, and go ahead and do that update.
yeah. So basically, last week we talked about XAI, which is the same company as X.com, raising debt at a very high interest rate, and that was somehow remarkable. Except, of course, that X.com is a startup that's venture backed.
Right.
So the alternative, like it's kind of it's high interest compared to what? How many venture-backed startups do you know issuing bonds and getting them filled at any interest rate? Um, so that's the catch there. Basically, what's happening is the following. Um, XAI is in the process of raising another eye-watering round like the previous ones in the multiple billions.
Hmm.
But it seems that it will take some time longer than um, maybe was predicted or whatever. The money's just not going to be there on time for the other absolutely breakneck thing that they're doing, which is building data centers faster than the eye can see. I believe they have the largest um, coherent NVIDIA cluster with like, I don't know, 200,000 chips or something stupid. Anyway, just
Yeah, they
imagine
got they
basically when
got
you're
they
thinking of
built the
XAI.
largest facility, and then they also assembled it in apparently record time, which was impressive.
Exactly. So speed is like really a big thing here, right? So effectively, the easiest way to understand what happened here is a forward deployment of capital that they have not yet raised. So this is effectively a temporary instrument that people are funding basically because they believe that Elon is good for it, but no other startup, in similar financial and development stage, let's call it, would even dream of issuing, like OpenAI cannot issue junk bonds, Anthropic cannot issue bonds, like whatever. This is and honestly, I if I was told to put money in such an instrument, I would, because I know for a fact that Elon is just
I w-
not going to let it go bad.
I would
There's
I
just
would
no way.
gamble I would gamble a grand or two on a 12% return as part of a
Yeah.
diversification strategy. Now, it is a little bit unfair though, Alex. If I tried to raise billions of dollars and offer that type of thing, I don't think people would trust me just because I don't happen to have billions of dollars currently as my valuation, and I think that is unjust. And I think I'm
That is
going to
correct.
side
That
with
is
the
correct.
new mayoral candidate for New York, who
Democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
now I'm siding with that because if anyone can get billionaires to cooperate with their own destruction, it would be that guy. It would be that guy because let me tell you this
Hmm.
guy's trajectory. Okay, the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday that's Zohan Mamdani, who was the gentleman that we just played, who was a mayoral candidate who just won a first round in the Democratic primary through a ranked voting system. He promised free juice in high school campaign for class vice president. He lost that campaign, but it was the start of an improbable rise. I think we're off to a good start, Alex.
I mean, I will say that the pylon on this guy is annoying me greatly. The I don't know if the Twitter addy has agreed on whether they hate him because he's a Muslim or he's a communist or he's an anti-Semite or something or other. This time, last I saw, they don't like that he eats with his hands, which is what we're trying to make happen. But New York has had communist-leaning mayors few times in its history, and I'm sure he's not going to be the last if elected. But it bugs me that it seems that the consensus is that we hate this guy, but we're trying to figure out why at the moment. Though I have no time for his equity agenda, but he's not unique in American politics with those beliefs. But he is
So what you're
appears to be unique
saying,
in the
so what
amount
you're
of
saying,
hate
sir,
that he's gathering.
is that there are so many people who are as incorrectly obnoxious as he is that it's boring to you. You are no longer motivated by the general.
No, I find fascinating that there is a clear algorithm at work that is just sort of flailing wildly to figure out what are we going to nail this guy as, because we really don't like him, and that's what we're sure about. Yeah, that's the
Well, he
that's what I
is an
find
avowed
fascinating.
socialist,
Sorry.
so he does have that going for him, and we tend to have some sort of
Sure.
response to that.
Sure,
Often.
sure.
The
Yeah,
D-
no,
the
I mean, I don't
DSA
like it at
is
all.
a fringe group for a reason.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the fringe. I mean, AOC is part of them. Yeah, they've been related to elected politicians for a long time. But who was the mayor of New York during a pandemic? Something with a
Bloomberg.
B.
No, sorry.
No.
No, not Bloomberg. I mean, I meant to say Cuomo.
No, that's the governor.
Gosh darn it, I'm all scattered right now. Apologies.
Yeah. Anyways, no, I've also underslept greatly. So, but anyway, he was also, if I remember correctly, like an avowed whatever. But
Wow, why is his name
other
escaping
than
me
like
now?
local, you know who I'm talking about, right? De Blasio.
Oh my gosh, yes, okay. Right, yes. Bloomberg preceded him, and that's where my memory got skewed because Bloomberg was 2013 where he left.
He was a hard lefty as well, but I don't remember any campaigns to sort of make him a national sort of red flag or anything. So I don't know. I'm fascinated by the 2 minutes.
Well, were you heavily engaged in New York mayoral races in 2014 when he took office?
I'm still not. To this day.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well,
I have zero interest in New York whatsoever. Yet I am being told that Mamdani is the next enemy. So
well, I chose that as a nice segue from billionaires, and their unfair advantages, because I do not have the same advantages as Elon Musk to raise that kind of money.
In your defense, in your defense, the thing that you criticize them on is the actual criticizable thing. As opposed to
well, there's I haven't expanded, but we could have gone down the rent control policies that he favors and all that sort of stuff. So
the socialism in general, right?
Yes,
it is stupid. However, there's people who want to revoke his citizenship. There's people who say he's a Muslim. As for me, I have a positive, connection to, Gujarati Indian sort of extraction people who hail from East Africa because I like Queen. So there we are.
All right. Well, another piece of fun news this week circulating around, Alex, that you tagged me in sort of tangentially.
I hope people got this, by the way. Please tell me you got it.
I got it.
I know you got it, Gator. You're like a music encyclopedia. I think I'm gonna just lay it out because I will feel sad if people did not.
All right.
Catch
Okay.
this.
Explain the joke.
Freddie Mercury, also known as Farrokh Bulsara, if I'm not mistaken, is the singer of Queen. For those of you who grew up under a rock.
Was his mother ever arrested and indicted for murder?
Well, I wouldn't know now. Like the police records of Zanzibar are still closed to me.
Okay. All right.
Did his mother slay?
Well, she just killed a man and put a gun against his head.
Oh, I see.
You know, see what I make up for in not remembering the order of Democratic
Very good.
mayors of New
Very
York
good.
and confusing them with governors is that I have all the song lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody on call. So
Yeah, but I will say, like, this guy is elite through and through. His parents are, all Harvard, Yale, whatever, educated, whatever's.
no,
He
he's
too, I
savvy.
believe, is the
He's
same.
savvy.
So he's playing a good rendition of the Obama playbook, and you're gonna get what you're gonna get.
Well, there is a nice little sub game of them pulling up tweets of just a few years ago that they say objectionable, and the response is, "Oh, he's not running on that campaign," which is exactly the Kamala Harris sort of playbook.
Has he yet said when I was young and irresponsible, I acted young and irresponsible?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's yeah.
Moving forward, there was another fun thing that you tagged me in sort of tangentially here.
Alligator Alcatraz, we're ready to go.
Ready to go with security and surveillance to house 5,000 illegal immigrants from across the country in Collier County as they wait for their flight home. The Attorney General says his proposed ICE detention facility has been approved and construction has already begun.
Governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one.
AG James Uthmeyer claims that this old abandoned airfield, the home of the failed Everglades jetport project from the 70s, would be the best because of its location. 39 square miles, including an existing big plane runway along US 41 on the Miami-Dade Collier line. Plus, he says he wants to use the swamp as a home field advantage.
You don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons.
On Sunday, hundreds of people who live in Ochapee and on nearby Indian reservations gathered outside the facility when this was still a proposal. They aren't against ICE or deportations. They're against development in the Everglades.
This isn't about politics. This is about the environment. And if we don't put our foot down and stop developing out here in these wildlands, we're not going to have any left.
Now, Trump had promised bringing back Alcatraz, but he didn't say that he was relocating it from New York to Florida and that we were now getting an alligator moat, which was a twist that I wasn't expecting. And I really don't know if the alligators are going to be free labor or if they're going to get wages like any respecting employee of the government. But we're going to have it. We're going to have our alligator moat Alcatraz in Florida.
Are they going to be citizens?
That's a good question.
And is it going to be because of birthright?
These are very deep questions that we only ask here on this space. Nobody else is asking
This
these.
Dumb Week is the place you get these. The only place. Nobody else asks these questions, and you should wonder why.
So, moving forward just a little bit through, sort of a rapid fire introduction to some of the stupidity this week. This was a little bit of a later development just in the last 2 days. Peter Thiel gave an interview to the New York Times, and several clips started to float around, one of which, insinuating he might be the Antichrist that he warns about. And his reaction to that was kind of fun. I only have one clip about that I want to just bring forward here.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would. I also would like us to radically solve these problems,
right.
And so it's always, I don't know. Transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or a transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross-dresses. And a transsexual is someone where you change your, penis into a vagina. and we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And okay, we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole.
In all your travels, have you ever seen a star supernova?
No.
No. Well, I have. I saw a star explode and send out the building blocks of the universe. Other stars, other planets, and eventually other life. A supernova. Creation itself. I was there, I wanted to see it, and be part of the moment. And you know how I perceived one of the most glorious events in the universe? With these ridiculous gelatinous orbs in my skull. With eyes designed to perceive only a tiny fraction of the EM spectrum. With ears designed only to hear vibrations in the air. I don't want to be human. I want to see gamma rays. I want to hear X-rays, and I want to smell dark matter. Do you see the absurdity of what I am? I can't even express these things properly because I have to conceptualize complex ideas in this stupid, limiting spoken language. But I know I want to reach out with something other than these prehensile paws and feel a solar wind of a supernova flowing over me. I'm a machine. And I could know much more. I could experience so much more, but I'm trapped in this absurd body.
Yeah, so it's not always a good sign when someone is asked, do you want the human race to continue? And they pause and they say, yes, but. It's not usually a good sign. At least Elon Musk, starts his premise with the Neuralink that he's going to be helping people with severe limitations due to paralysis and stuff regain some semblance of normal function. But then just recently he said that he's also hoping to be able to allow you to control his Optimus robots through it. So
here's something O3 wrote for us. It says, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a merchant of code and taste. Been wiring money through cyberspace since dial-up ruled the place. Anyway, you get the point. Look, I'm very pro making fun of Teal for other comments of his. Unfortunately, in this one, he's just being, you see what's happening, right? He is trying to honestly answer the question if humanity should survive in the sense of like, what do you mean by humanity, and not in a stupid Jordan Peterson way, but like, should we become something else? That's why he goes towards the sort of transvestite transhumanism spectrum. But it definitely came across as a kind of non-media trained, to put it mildly, answer that people are dunking on him for, because he is playing into
without
Bill Gates image.
Well, even without my clip there, cutting it off just simply at the idea that, there's a sort of a post-human vision that he has there. The rest of that interview gets a little wonky, particularly if you're not deeply invested in the biblical narrative that he's interweaving in there, what with the Antichrist and the ascension to a higher plane and stuff like that. That's not your bag. The whole thing sounds a little bit wooey.
Yeah, I mean, have you listened to Peter Thiel interviews before?
In the past, not recently. So maybe one per year over the last 5 years. For a couple hours here and there. So
that's a good dose, I think. He what's the name of that philosopher that talks about scapegoating? It was like a big deal in Silicon Valley. It's like a French Christian philosopher. Anyway, but basically, Thiel has been into this sort of thing for a long time.
You're not talking about Elul, are you?
No,
Okay.
no.
It's really hard when you
Oh
say
my
like
God.
French Christian philosophers because you get like a smorgasbord of different people who have all said different things at times. So
No, no, he's all about the scapegoating. Like that's his thing, that like societies create scapegoats
mhm.
habitually, and they take it all out on them and whatever. And that's kind of the Jesus, I think, was the last one or the ultimate one or whatever. Anyway, but he talks a lot about sort of the mimetic, how people are mimetic,
Mhm.
and their desires are like fundamentally copying each other. Anyway, but Teal has made that guy very
Oh!
famous.
Are you talking about the simulacra?
No. Anyway,
Baudrillard? You're not talking about Baudrillard?
no, 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 no.
Okay. Well, then I have
I
no
will
idea who
find
you're
the name
talking
and I'll
about.
tell you. There's people who know the name right now and are probably screaming it. He's pretty well known to a very specific crowd. But I will find it afterwards and I'll tell you. But the
All
point
right.
is, Teal has been very much. I enjoy listening to Teal, okay, because he has a habit of reacting to any thought that can be considered standard or expected or sort of, I don't know, normal, or call it what you want. Like he's a trader through and through, and that extends to the field of ideas. So whenever he's being given an idea that is like kind of normal and commonly accepted, his first thought, I swear to God, is, how can I play the other side of this.
Mhm.
um so he that sort of thing tends to produce interesting ideas once in a while, and a lot of crazy. Don't get me wrong, but also a lot of interesting ideas.
Well, to the
And
extent
he
that
clearly,
the billionaires that shouldn't exist,
yes,
to the extent that they are able to make progress on modifying the human body to augment its capabilities, there will obviously be a nice little horror show in the future as people attempt to outcompete each other on that territory. There will be there may be some nice success stories, but there's probably going to be a couple dead end paths that are pretty horrifying down the way.
well, this is the thing, right? And I think this is a fascinating area that we could talk a lot more about. But there's a sort of being in this sort of dissident soup that we're swimming in, I'm sure on Twitter. There's You've seen the sort of Maha, granola, whatever crowd, right? That is all about, sort of in the most sophisticated form, they're all about complex systems and don't Chesterton's fence, don't mess with it if you don't know what it does, et cetera, right? Like that things are better left alone, let's put it this way, right? And then there's the radical futurist EAC, innovation energy crowd. And I feel very interestingly connected to both of those, because I feel like I'm one of the few people who kind of can steel man both those positions pretty well. Mostly because I've
It's
had,
almost like some
different.
of them you can apply circumstantially depending on further context and
Sure,
analysis.
sure, but the thing is that each group's members, faced with the same questions, will reflexively answer it from their
Sure,
own point of view.
sure.
Right. So
Although I
yes,
will
one of them is
say
gonna be
that
right.
Beth Bezos, or how do you pronounce
Yes. Yeah,
that
yeah,
moniker?
yeah. The prophet of Yak.
Yes, so there is a very popular person who coined sort of a counter to the effective altruism paradigm. And the effective altruism paradigm, just as a refresher, is sort of the idea that altruism is a good quality to foster, but that most altruism is completely ineffective, and therefore your aim should be to make sure that your altruistic acts are as effective as possible, which on the surface sounds like a perfectly reasonable frame of mind. But then, unfortunately, it sort of coalesced into, interesting cultish behavior. And then people started to compete with each other to become the most effective altruist, which had some, very interesting distortions, including, lying and fraud, which ultimately landed with Sam Bankman-Fried, who is now sort of one of the top exemplar representatives of the effective altruism movement. And one of the people from Silicon Valley who used to work for Google as a quantum computing engineer, correct? That is his history.
Which person?
Beth Bezos or Beth.
Yes, he was on Google X. He's a reasonably well published quantum physicist, I think.
I'm trying to remember, is his
In
first
the
name
quantum
Guillermo or something, or
Guillermo Verdon.
okay.
His name. He's got a very good under his real name. He's got a very good podcast with Lex Friedman that I've enjoyed.
Okay.
And I like I know him a little, right? Like he's not my, like, we don't have beers or whatever, but we co-occur in places.
So this Beth, his moniker's name's Beth, and it's obviously a play off of Jeff Bezos. I can get the Beth. Just the second part is hard for me to say, but he's basically the spawner of the counter, tongue-in-cheek opposition to effective altruism, which is effective accelerationism, which is sort of like a technological anarcho-capitalist sort of paradigm, not truly anarcho-capitalist if you follow them all, but in that sort of vein where distribution of technology, no matter how advanced, is somewhat of a more stable sort of future. So with AI advancing like LLMs, they are on the counter to the alarmism side. So Alex's former familiar group, the rationalists, who have the doomers, the AI doomers, the group that says that we need to put severe limitations, just like we do for nuclear arms. We have to then do this for just regular computing power to prevent a significant training in artificial intelligence, because if we don't, we are going to doom ourselves to death fairly shortly. The accelerationists, they're sort of on the opposite side. It's like, no, we should distribute the power of the artificial intelligence so that everyone sort of has their own competing versions. That'll create some stability against the doom, because if you have bad AIs, you can have good AIs to fight the bad AIs, sort of that kind of idea. But interestingly enough, there was a little bit of hypocrisy in the drone department, where when Ukraine launched sort of like a drone attack against Russia inside their territory, Beth was sort of warning, oh, hey, China's probably building this type of stuff in ours, where all these Chinese spies and Chinese immigrants on visas who are beholden to the CCP, because the CCP does have some we're threatening your family back at home stuff going on if you don't cooperate with us. He was saying, hey, they'll be building these secret drone bases to attack our sensitive assets, and I just found that interesting that he wasn't advocating for distributed drone acquisition where everyone has their own personal drone fleet. Thought it was a little.
I think he would, but he is also saying, we should run faster. Basically, he has a lot of reflexive positions. Sorry, was that the one, that CCP, was that the Canadian Communist Party? Because I think he's Canadian, so I don't know about these foreigners. The Trudeau Castro government in Canada is threatening his family. I don't know what's going on there. It's all very.
I mean, I'm not attacking him strongly with my critique there. I'm just ribbing a little bit.
But I think if you want to attack somebody strongly, however, I do have the world's best video attached to the space.
Okay.
Which is about the Shrimp Welfare Project. From the Effective Altruists.
Is this something I can play? Because I can load it up on the other side. If
well, I've never played it, so you will be taking your life in your hands. But sure, fuck.
Well, all of our lives, right? I'm making this risky choice on behalf of all of us. If you can just DM that on Twitter real quick.
It's you
I can't see anything in the space, so I can't click anything.
I see. So you might be lucky.
Really.
For everybody who is watching this, I'm pretty sure that this is being sent in it's being done in seriousness. This is not a joke, so to speak, because I'm sure you will think it is a joke when
is there some lead into it? Because right now we have very little information.
Shrimp Welfare is a fantastic sort of one-off way to explain the problem with EA, which is that they do the math in terms of reducing suffering in the world, right? But however, that math, if done a certain way, will tell you that the most important cause in the world right now is shrimp welfare, because there's so many of them, and there's they're suffering so much that fuck the starving kids in Africa. We've got problems with the shrimp.
Well, when you don't have a base agreed
I'm
upon
not
calculation.
joking, man. This is serious. They mean this.
Well, if you don't have a base agreed upon valuation of an individual life, then the billions of tiny shrimp can just that's the scale factor that's pretty high.
Okay, hello. This is Aaron, Laura, and Matt reporting live from Pentagon City Mall.
Today we're going to see if the citizens of the Washington, D.C. area know anything about shrimp welfare and if we can convince them to care.
I think the imagery is better.
Shrimp welfare. Well, shrimp are the most harmed species.
It's unfortunately a bit hard to hear, so I'm gonna we'll just attach that to the space and let people play that on their own. Their audio setup was not particularly conducive to.
It was not effective or altruistic.
No, their message is getting lost.
I know. I mean, their consequentialist calculus there was completely off the ball. How are you going to get your polycule to acquire more desirable members like this, guys?
Ooh, that's a deep burn.
Anyway, so basically, so that's when we're talking about the effective altruist, this is what we're talking about. So people like Teal are on the have historically been maybe sometimes on that side, but are definitely now on the other, which is that safetyism is just not gonna do it. And by the way, I call them safetyists, not doomers, because I do ascribe some serious probability that something might go seriously wrong. So in that sense, I might be a doomer, but that doesn't mean that my solution to the problem is to get the government to fix it, which is their position. So to me, what I object to more is that they're so naive and just so, like, I don't know what the word is other than uneducated about what government is and does. They're basically just fundamentally very normie. So faced with a problem, they are like, oh, I know what we're gonna do. Get the government to fix it. We need to pass some laws to ban large AI trainings or whatever. And it's like, what do you think will happen if you do? Like, play it out for me? And they never can. So that's my main objection to this crowd. Other than the shrimp welfare has been pretty damaging to their cause too, I will say. Anyway, I don't know how we got here, but aren't you happy we did?
A long way around, I guess. So actually, if we can stay on Elon Musk a little bit, since I mentioned him with attempting to operate or bring people through his brain implants to operate his Optimus bipedal humanoid robots. Want to talk a little bit about some of his AI issues, and in tandem some of X/Twitter, which we're on. As a quick aside, a couple months ago, you asked me about sort of the video game community and how they might treat sort of independent play that wasn't necessarily all actually the player, and what automation tools could be used. And I sort of gave you like a hesitant answer because I didn't know what community he was a part of. Did you ever do further like investigation into Elon Musk's Diablo
think
4?
Exaggeration of his claims in terms of Path of Exile, I think, is the game. I think that's been pretty solidly established at this point. I haven't seen any pushback. I don't know about the Diablo part.
So in short,
that might be more.
There was an additional claim that on top of all of the successful technology businesses that are doing amazing things that he runs, and this was before Doge, but then eventually on top of Doge, he was also a world leading player of Diablo 4 and some other game that you just mentioned. Right?
Yeah. I think the one that's been questioned most effectively is the Path of Exile one. Just to be clear, I think the Diablo one had been looked into, and seemed plausible at the time.
And this started to really come about. He was gaining attention for this because he was also testing live streaming on his newly acquired Twitter to try to, sort of, I guess, plan to glean some of the video game streaming crowd from, let's say, Twitch, which is a partial competitor if he enters that space, right?
I think this happened at the beginning of this year, by the way. So that I don't think the acquisition was new at the time, but otherwise, yes.
Okay. Well, new in the sense that he was expanding the video capabilities, I believe, and trying to test more.
Yep.
So, what was it? Do you know what systems he was playing that on? Was that PC?
Probably.
Okay. So that's where there was a little bit of trickery in my dastardly intro here because Elon Musk has been suing OpenAI for breach of contract when OpenAI was supposed to be sort of like a nonprofit, and he's suing them because now they've been transitioning into a for-profit company, and he was a early investor in the OpenAI project when it was supposed to be nonprofit, and therefore all of the research they were doing shared with everyone as an open source sort of project, hence the name OpenAI. And this last week, OpenAI and the other people involved were complaining in court in this lawsuit that Musk has filed that Musk was not participating in the discovery process. And I'm just going to read this letter from, or part of this letter from Elon's attorneys responding to the complaint that they were not participating in the discovery process. We write in response to OpenAI defendants' June 20th letter, which inaccurately portrays the facts and outstanding issues. On the afternoon of June 18th, plaintiffs circulated an email to defendants proposing that all parties exchange their search-related information as plaintiffs had disclosed their search terms, custodians, and efforts. At 9 p.m. the same day, OpenAI served plaintiffs with its portion of a joint discovery letter, unilaterally declaring an impasse on issues still under active consideration and demanding a response by noon the 20th. The next business day following the Juneteenth federal holiday, precisely when plaintiffs were due to file two opposition briefs to OpenAI and Microsoft's motion to dismiss. They continue, and they say OpenAI's letter contains numerous inaccuracies that the correspondences between the parties will readily demonstrate should the court desire them. Chief among them is OpenAI's statement that it is now clear that Musk and his counsel do not plan to collect any documents from Musk. This is incorrect. On June 14th, for example, plaintiffs sent defendants a letter informing them that plaintiffs were conducting searches of Mr. Musk's mobile phones, having searched his emails, and that Mr. Musk does not use a computer. Now, I saw these headlines floating around, and I had to read the docket to try to understand if that was if they were accurately reporting the claim from the attorneys that Mr. Musk does not use a computer. And since they say mobile phones as part of the things that they searched, I have to take the layman's interpretation that they are referring to laptops or desktops, and that there is no further nuance in the art of using the term computer. And that's why I let in a little bit of a trickery asking you what he played on, because I have several tweets from Musk over time talking about using his laptops and buying new laptops and playing the video games on laptops. And I just wanted to know.
I mean, but he does extreme things from time to time, like selling all his houses at some point. So, it could be that he,
as of this moment, does not use a computer.
Well, I don't know. What else could it be? That he's never used a computer, I think is a bit extreme.
Yes. So there's a couple issues that I've had going when I was trying to when I immediately read that and I said, that doesn't sound plausible. I did find some tweets in succession here from July 31st, 2021. Tweet from Musk. PC desktop with latest graphics card, although I have a Mac too, gigabyte laptop. February 25th, 2024. Just bought a new PC and it won't let me use it unless I create a Microsoft account, which also means giving their AI access to my computer. This is messed up. There used to be an option to skip signing in or creating a Microsoft account, a complaint I've had multiple times that I've solved, but I guess Elon doesn't have tech support where he is to help him figure out how to bypass it, which is a shame. December 30th, 2024. This is a pic of my laptop. It's about 3 years old, even though he bought one earlier the year too. A guy in Germany gave me this cool sticker, so I don't want to upgrade it. And then on June 28th, he posted an image of him playing what looks like an RPG of some kind, maybe Diablo 4. I don't play the game, so I can't identify it. With a screen that looks interesting enough, like a desktop computer screen. Could be a television, and he's playing PS4, but but I don't know if the argument he doesn't use a computer is going to be bought by the the judge there. In that case.
I don't know what they're going for there. I mean, the best I can do is to say, that he doesn't do business on a specific computer.
That perhaps is something that I could. I'm not saying I buy it, but I could see that being argued in a push, in a thing that his security concerns are such that he doesn't like to put business sensitive things on, let's say third-party OSs, even though of course mobile phones are still going to be third-party OSs. But I could see an argument being made about that. That just the statement. The statement struck me as a oh come on moment.
No, that's great. The other fun part for people who are following deep Musk lore is that part of the reason he was fired from PayPal originally as its CEO, a big part was that he wanted to rename it to X.com. Another big part is that he wanted to transition their architecture to Windows from Linux. I kid you not. That was a very big part of the fight.
Do you know why? Do you have an explanation?
I think he just thought it was better at the time, which honestly was 2000, so that he might have been correct. I don't know.
Well, I mean, was he referring to desktop infrastructure or server infrastructure?
No, their back end, like their server.
Okay, that's slightly different.
Yeah.
Okay.
But how long we've come, how far we've come.
Just to sort of, I don't have anything prepared for this week because it's a deep story. Just so you're aware, in the back end, Alex, if you want to possibly do some of your own investigation, there's apparently some rifts brewing in the Linux community. Companies and other groups fighting over ownership of particularly large distributions, and the X11 versus Wayland transitions are getting interestingly political and contentious, and there's you may want to check into some of those and evolvings.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to transition here to a bigger topic, not some of these shorter one-offs. This is going to be a bigger subject before we then move on to an even bigger subject. But this one should be rather fun. Okay? It's not going to be a sad topic to discuss. But I have a question for you. Are you familiar with famous kings, like, let's say, Stephen King, the author, or Martin Luther King, who's a famous person in the United States history? Are you familiar with the king of rock and roll, yes, or the king of pop, Michael Jackson?
Madonna. Yeah.
Now, how familiar are you with the king of liver, Liver King?
I have, this name has crossed my radar, but only tangentially.
All right.
Go on.
Well,
do tell.
We're going to explore a little bit of the, let's say, 5 years of the Liver King, because there was a news story in the last week that, if I tell you the news story right off the bat, it's not going to be as interesting, and the journey is going to be worth it. So we're going to start by talking about his current stats. The Liver King has a wide social media following. He has 61 million followers on TikTok and 1.21 million followers on YouTube. And the Liver King appeared on the scene, let's say about 5 years ago, thereabouts, inside of the health and wellness fitness bro community. as an extreme incarnation, a caricature, if you will, a hyper caricature of every single stereotype that a young male may aspire to be when lost and perusing the internet trying to find themselves. He has a beard worthy of a communist dictator or Marxist philosopher. He not only has the desired six-pack that is representative of peak male form, he has the ever-elusive 8-pack. Okay. He has cultivated a following.
Is that like a four-leaf clover of musculature?
He has cultivated a following with his unique approach to health and fitness, and I'm going to allow him to explain his purpose in his own introduction.
When you realize that people are suffering and struggling and that there's a simple, elegant solution, a return to ancestral living, that's really what my purpose is now. There's this really simple way of living. It's ancestral living. It's the way that we've lived for millions of years. It's accessible. It's something you can literally do right now, today, and you can have an impact and change your life tomorrow. This is why my life's work is my mission, is my purpose. It's putting back in what the modern world left out.
So ancestral living, that's his moniker. Okay, we're gonna go and live back like our ancestors. Now, there's a lot of allure for that in the recent years. You talked about sort of the Chesterton's fence sort of paradigm, just moments ago, where you don't want to necessarily disturb something if you don't truly understand its nature. And so there has been sort of a return to people who want to, in the Maha movement, they want to cut out processed foods and things like that. And so this Liver King is sort of the hyper-realistic version of that. He wants to return to our nature. And he has given people a journey through his health and fitness regimen that we will explore to some degree. But in his own self-promotion, you wind up finding a few contradictions and a little oddities about exactly how what he is doing is truly ancestral. In one of his videos, he has talked about doing some outreach in New York where he has an apartment.
The king is back in New York City! Yeah! Primals, come on in. Let me show you around. This is my office. And you might be thinking, why do you need an office? You always need an office to dominate your environment. When Liver King comes to the city, I'm asking for the biggest room. Because if you're going to expand and dominate and live with abundance, when you come to the city, you got to stay in the biggest room. Because when you're here to dominate, you got to be in a place that's going to support domination. So I got bathroom number 2 right here with one of these Japanese toilets, which are horrific. This was dinner. That's why this is a wreck. This is where the boys are staying. You see the Faraday tents. This is going to protect them from all the EMFs. Bathroom number 3 with a red light. Check out the red light, Thomas. Look at the red light. This is a kitchen fit for a king. I got my Sub-Z. I got my blender. I got everything I need. I got my stove.
So, now, obviously, you can't see his apartment, but of course I'm attaching them to the space. But you may have caught something interesting, if you were paying attention to what he was saying as he was describing that, was that he was talking about the tents for his kids, the Faraday tents, to protect them from all the EMFs. Now, I've attached the video to the space, and if you watch the video, you can see that these tents are inside of this expensive New York apartment, sitting on top of the beds that the kids would also sleep on. So, I'm not aware of the ancestral nature of the Faraday tents and the concern for EMFs as part of, living a natural primal life. But I guess if you have to adopt some sort of modernity, you want to reduce the effects as much as you can, right? The modern comforts come at a cost, right? Those EMFs you need to protect all your kids from, you have to, make concessions, right? So I think that's sort of understandable. And as part of his regular social media, he takes people further through his health and wellness regimen and does mukbangs. Now, Alex, are you familiar with the term mukbang?
It rings a bell vaguely, but I'm sure when you're done, it'll ring a bigger one.
Mukbang is the sort of social phenomenon where you watch people eat. That's the social.
Oh my God! Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to listen to a short clip where he explains what he's eating as part of his primal life return.
Liver King here. I just broke my 24-hour fast by doing a simulated successful hunt, and now it is time to feast. Here's what we get to have. 3 ounces of liver. We got a couple ounces of pure marrow that we're going to scoop right out of this femur. We got 10 ounces of some bone-in skin-on sardines. 3 ounces of some fresh sashimi-style testicle. We have our vegetables. We have a huge pile of carbs. We got some Liver King concoction in here with some grass-finished yogurt and maple syrup, and a whole beef protein shake. And last but not least, here are my good friends, my condiments, my farm fresh fermented ketchup, my maple syrup, and my...
Now, perhaps you didn't catch some of the wonderful things he prepared for that meal, but the sashimi testicles stuck out to me as an interesting ingredient. And when you see his physique, part of his allure is that he's promising you that by following what he does, you too, if you follow what he does, you too can have the physique that he does. The hyper-realistic 8-pack abs, the, let's say, impressive pectoral muscles, and you can return to living like our ancestors.
The inability to pronounce English.
There was another thing that stuck out in that, was that he had stated that he had just finished a successful simulated hunt with no further expansion as to what that meant. Maybe it was the type of, capture release hunt where, it's not a wild game. They were captured, but you released them in order to hunt them for a brief period of time. But I'm not sure what a simulated hunt is, but he had a successful one. Now, as he was gaining popularity and other fitness influencers were looking at his results, there became the claim that he wasn't, as they say, a natty. Now, a natty is a person who is natural in their bodybuilding and in their physique pursuits. The natural being, possibly hard to specifically demarcate. It's hard to say what the boundaries are, right? If you know how to hack your body by eating all of the right foods or consuming the right supplements, it's hard to know where the boundary line is between someone who's natural and someone who is unnatural. But as far as the boundaries do exist, it is typically seen that boosting what you're doing with growth hormones, testosterone and others, is out of bounds to be considered a natty, a natural physique bodybuilder. And after denying it for about a year, finally he was busted and had to come clean.
Primals, I'm making this video to apologize. Because I fucked up. Because I'm embarrassed and ashamed. Because I lied. And I misled a lot of people. I've stated that this is a complicated as fuck topic, at least to me it is, because before social media, I was rich and anonymous. And after social media, I'm still rich, but no longer anonymous. And I never expected this kind of exposure in the public eye. It's been tricky as fuck to navigate. Well, clearly I did it wrong. And I'm here now to set the record straight. Yes, I've done steroids, And yes, I am on steroids, monitored and managed by a trained hormone clinician. Liver King, the public figure, was an experiment to spread the message, to bring awareness to the 4,000 people a day who kill themselves, the 80,000 people a day that try to kill themselves. Our people are hurting at record rates with depression, autoimmune, anxiety, infertility, low ambition in life. Our young men are hurting the most, feeling lost, weak, and submissive. So I made it my job to model, teach, and preach a simple, elegant solution called ancestral living, the 9 ancestral tenets, so our people no longer have to suffer, so we can collectively express our highest and most dominant form. This is my fight. This is why I exist. While spreading the message, I've been on several podcasts, and when asked if I've ever taken steroids, I've always said no. I don't touch the stuff, not gonna touch the stuff, never touch the stuff. That was a lie. I've convinced myself that this had nothing to do with the ancestral message. I convinced myself that I'm not a competitive athlete of any kind, so who the fuck am I cheating? I convinced myself that this topic was a placeholder for a far more important conversation. I convinced myself that this would overshadow the 36 years of working out, usually twice a day, without PEDs. I've convinced myself that this was the vocal minority, usually in the fitness category, driving to an unproductive conversation. And I had convinced myself that this would be the wrong message to send to the 15-year-old boys. So I continually dismissed it, and I dug myself into a bigger and deeper hole. I have only myself to blame. I did that, and it was all wrong. I will be better. I will talk about it openly, because I believe that there's a time and a place for pharmacological intervention monitored and managed by a trained hormone physician.
Just like our ancestors. There's a time and place to have testosterone boosts managed by a trained professional just like our ancestors. Now, there's an oddity in there, among other oddities, but there was one particular oddity, was him lamenting about how this sort of taints the impression of his 36 years of working out, right? It creates a stain, a bad public image on 36 years of working out. Now, as of today, he's 47 years old. And that video is now 2 years older, about 2.5 years old. Now, to work out for 36 years and have that math work out, he would have started working out that heavily at 9, according to his timeline.
Well, he just said he was working out. He didn't say he was.
Granted, yes. It could have been just, a little bit of, dumbbell curls in daddy's basement, right? But
hide and seek,
Now,
twice.
BuzzFeed News, around the same time, which is why he had to make the video, reported, yes, I've done steroids, and yes, I'm on steroids, monitored and managed by a trained hormone clinician. He said, when I talk about the 85% of the population that suffers from self-esteem issues, that's me. I'm part of that statistic. That's why I fucking work myself to death at the gym. That's why I do 12 to 15 blood-burning workouts a week. Weightlifting YouTuber More Dates, More Plates, whose name is Derek, posted emails purporting to show Johnson's steroid prescriptions on Tuesday in a YouTube video titled The Liver King Lie. The hour-long video, detailed the past allegations against Johnson, which have included steroid usage and ab implants, and featured spliced clips of Johnson continuing to insist his physique was solely due to his ancestral lifestyle, he advertised, which is essentially a machismo-branded version of working out, eating raw liver daily, and buying his products. According to a June 29, 2021 email by Derek, Johnson was prescribed a medley of medicines totaling 16 vials a month, 5 of which were steroids and 1 a synthetic protein hormone. In the emails, Johnson specified that he was spending about $11,000 per month on steroids. Now, this is bringing us towards this past year where the Liver King story has taken a wild ride leading up to this week, where it continues as of yesterday in a rather explosive fashion. So after this apology, the fitness community not only had ostracized him before, but were now sort of continuing to point out that this man, or at least in their opinion, was a fraudster, who was a habitual liar, who was not serving any greater purpose, not truly educating anybody. And there were, a round of attacks that I'm going to go through just shortly. It's a few clips, very short and brief, to highlight some of the social media onslaught that this popular influencer has taken.
But no one ever defeats the one true king, the Liver King. And for the first time ever, we are reviewing the Liver King's diet and training and ancestral tenets or whatever sociopath make-believe bullshit that he lies to you about while taking copious amounts of steroids. Let's get into it.
I failed as a young man.
I can believe that.
I failed as an evolutionary hunter.
That doesn't mean anything, but very well. I think everyone fails at that. Scott, I prefer a non-evolutionary hunter. What? Are you the f***ing predator or some shit?
An entrepreneur. I couldn't even make payroll.
That's true. A lot of us have been there, but you bounce back by lying to people. I love it. Classic success story.
Ancestral living saved my life.
And weird, you can monetize on it.
My boys' lives.
That kid looks like he's having no fun.
My wife and my marriage. It uncaged the evolutionary hunter that I was born to be.
Damn, I didn't know evolution had kettlebells and backpacks and backwards hats in it. Learn something new every day. Hey, Darwin. Yeah, wake up. Evolution's wrong as you described it. The Liver King will take over now. And champ.
The frame remains the ancestral tenets.
Whoever does his captioning, f that up. Tenants are people that live in a house that you rent out to them. Tenets are basically principles or postulates. Good job. Fire your TikTok guy.
So the 9 ancestral tenets are these forces that have nourished us and shaped us to epigenetically express.
Epigenetically, my man. It used to be intellectually impressive for people to just say genetics or heredity, but that's so 1982. Now it's epigenetics. Anytime actually you go online and you make a claim that genetics has a factor of this, and that, someone's like, yeah, but doesn't epigenetics kind of disprove that? No, you have no idea what epigenetics is. And Liver King, you also have no idea what it is, but it is a cool, intellectually sounding word to use to make your bullshit seem palatable. Pressure.
So these are the 9 ancestral tenets.
All right. At least they spelled tenets right this time. 9 ancestral tenets. Let's evaluate each one.
Move is perhaps the easiest of them all. We're doing it here. Moving is really more about making sure that you stay moving.
Is that a redundancy or a tautology? I can't think.
The biggest things are making sure that you cut out all the crap, all the processed foods.
This is a man that injects hormones into his body. You don't get much more processed than pharmaceutical-grade growth hormone. But I digress. Liver King is the definition of like a bombastic charlatan scammer. He's just going to do anything crazy and kooky to get your attention, so you click and like and send links to your friends and go, look at this guy, he's so fucking weird, and one of your friends is a fucking dupe, Mark, and they're going to be like, oh, make some good points, I'll buy his supplements and make him rich so he can buy tens of thousands of dollars of steroids every month. Check out those emails, that shit is real, by the way, to make him look like this. So it's not all ancestral, is it?
Turns out lying about these things, not such a good idea.
Oh, guys, he's coming to grips with the fact that he lied. He's apologizing and he's going to do a clean slate. Let me tell you guys something about, well, borderline sociopaths like Liver King. They have no problem lying after they've lied and been exposed. They do the same kind of apology you'd expect from any decent person, and then they go on to do the same general category of lying. There is no limit to that. It's like cheat mode in a fucking shooter video game where you just don't run out of ammo. People like Liver King can apologize 1,000 times and lie 1,001 times. Anyone of any remote intelligence and enough of an incisive ability to f people over can do that.
Now, that brings us to a more recent period where Joe Rogan briefly mentioned the Liver King on his podcast with Derek, the person who had previously exposed the Liver King's steroid usage.
You know, they're doing, different kinds of exercises, but it's pretty consistent. And one of the things that Zach talked about in that video that you inserted into your video, which is really good, was that when someone comes along and they have a secret, this is the secret. Yeah. The secret is the 9 ancestral tenets. Yeah. I mean, you see him there with a beard. He looks like an ogre or like someone in the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, like he looks like he belongs. The 9 ancestral tenets. Like you're gonna meet him in a cave somewhere, and he's gonna explain to you and give you a magic staff.
Yeah, it's like he feels it justified to be a larger-than-life character to represent the polar extreme of ancestral living, and even if it's at the detriment of having to take a bunch of drugs to do it.
Because men are killing themselves, Derek. Yeah. There's a whole reason for it.
Yeah.
It's so dumb, because imagine if you're like a really skinny guy, and you're like, all I have to do is eat liver, and I can look like that guy? Imagine. Like, there's people out there that really believe that. Like, that's what's missing. You know, wolves eat liver. Why don't I eat liver? So they go, which is, by the way, very, very healthy for you.
Yeah.
Liver is a fantastic food to eat. One of the very best foods that you can
I've been eating an ounce a day for years, personally. Yeah.
I saw that in the video, too. You put that. I eat elk liver. Whenever I kill an elk, it's a giant-ass liver. It's like this big. And I buy calf's liver, and I'll eat liver at restaurants. It's very good for you.
Yeah.
It's rich in nutrients.
Yeah.
But that's not going to get you that big.
So Joe Rogan mentions this, and that apparently upset the Liver King, who for the last week has now begun to challenge Joe Rogan to a fight, as he says, for charity, for $1 million, and has been posting to TikTok. Yes.
Before you continue, I would just say I am completely in the pro-Liver King category here. You have missed the man's message, but I will reveal why when you're done.
All right. So we got pro Liver King Alex on board here. Okay. So he begins to post the challenges, and the first ones apparently were taken down, and I wasn't able to grab a copy of the first ones, but several additional challenge videos were made. And this is one where Liver King was still at his home at the time.
Okay, real quick, P.S. What I'm hoping is that you, Joe Rogan, are thinking, I'm going to choke that motherfucker out, lights out, I'm going to choke him out. And I kind of hope that if you win, that's how it happens, because like to wake up from that dream, that's a good feeling. And then anything else that you could break on me, break it on me. I hope that you won't feel me tap. That's never happening, tapping, because I have something actually to fight for. Actually, that's my family. I have a principle to fight for. That's what I'm, what if he actually does what he's saying? What if that would be interesting? That would be interesting. What do you have to fight for? You're fighting. I hope you're mad. You should choke me out. You know how to do that. You're trained. You're trained. You got a black belt. Black belt in jiu-jitsu. I hope you choke me out. And if you don't choke me out, these other limbs will be interesting. Should be very interesting.
So then the Liver King posts that he is going to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. He tells his audience that he's going to go on. And he gets on a flight and heads down to Texas and begins to post to TikTok saying that he's going to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. And it turns out that he was never invited to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. So he begins to post to TikTok and Instagram his having traveled all the way to Texas to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, only to be turned away from going on the Joe Rogan podcast, and continues now from Texas to challenge Joe Rogan to a fight.
Shit, that's pretty strong. Maybe stronger than time. I'll book into it with love, man. I asked you for an invitation. I am a man, a real man, and you could denounce me and call me the metaphors of all these other things. I own it. I did it. I did all of it, and you can hate me and say these things, but you're not allowed to do that further than me. And when you do, it touches my family. For the Jim Riggs and the predecessor Bryans of me, it's an unwinnable fight that you picked. It just happened like that because you'll never be able to debate
a principle. Yeah. Civilizations can't do that either. Have you seen Apocalypto? It's kind of sort of what you're doing to yourself from the inside out. There's a deeper thing that we have, though. It's called the soul. We can all change. Look at me, I did it. Me Liver King, me make fire. Caveman idiot guy. Real fucking. You know that guy. We kind of like him. Some of us like him. You know what? Real manly men. Servicemen. Police officer men. Military men. The kind of men that give their lives. Honorable men. Those kind of men. Yeah. They seem to not say the same hateful things that you guys, I don't want to say you guys, but you're on a continuum. You are, you guys say. And so that's what I'm fighting for. So it's just unwinnable for you. My hand I will give you every step of the way.
Now, in those two clips, I actually did no trimming. So the awkward start where he's already in the middle of talking was what he posted. That's the video that you can access if you go visit his Instagram pages. And after he posts that, KXAN Austin, social media influencer Liver King bonds out of jail after Tuesday's arrest. Social media influencer Brian Liver King Johnson has been released from jail after he was arrested by Austin Police Department Tuesday evening, according to Travis County portal. Johnson currently faces a terroristic threat charge after he allegedly made threats against Joe Rogan on his Instagram profile, Austin Police confirmed. Records show that Johnson's bond was $20,000. He was ordered not to contact and stay 200 yards away from the alleged victim and family members, including the residents and places of business, according to the records. Per the terms of his release, Johnson was also ordered to have a mental health supervision and mental health evaluation within 1 week of his release, records detailed. The influencer has bonded out of jail and was actively posting on his Instagram account. Johnson has also been seen walking around near the Texas state capitol on Wednesday, per the social media posts. In an Instagram video Johnston posted on June 23rd, he said, "Joe Rogan, I'm calling you out. My name's Liver King. Man to man, I'm picking a fight with you. I have no training in jiu-jitsu. You're a black belt. You should disrespect me. But I'm picking a fight with you. Your rules. I'll come to you whenever you're ready." According to APD, detectives contacted Mr. Rogan, who stated he had never had any interaction with Johnson and considered the post to be threatening. Police located Johnson at the Four Seasons Hotel downtown around 6 p.m. Tuesday and took him into custody. An additional Instagram video posted around 7:30 p.m. shows who appeared to be Johnson wearing a burgundy hoodie and pants handcuffed getting into a police vehicle. Attorney information is not currently listed for Johnson. The police department said this is an ongoing investigation. Now, unfortunately, after this arrest, and court-ordered mental health checks, it unfortunately does not seem that anyone is enforcing any sort of mental health check. And increasingly, the Liver King's Instagram profile is becoming a multi-day or multi-times per day spectacle, where he is posting erratic, incoherent, and bizarre Instagram posts, still challenging Joe Rogan and increasingly focused on Joe Rogan. Now, given his previous erratic behavior, there is a little bit of ambiguity whether he is doing this as a stunt or if he's having a significant mental health crisis. And there's a risk of laughing at someone who's in distress, but there's also a situation here where someone has grown beyond their means for anyone who is responsible to be able to control them, and they have placed themselves in a sort of spectacle where expectations are that you can only sort of gawk at the outlandish behavior that they are bringing upon themselves for people to watch as a spectacle. And in the last little segment before we get to current day modern times, over this last couple days, he has posted a series of interesting, incoherent ramblings where certain markers of odd behavior can be explicitly seen and stated by him directly.
If it's bad and destructive, and it affects one person, one man, I might allow that bullying to happen. But if it affects more than that one person, especially their family, I'm not going to watch that happen. That's what I'm doing. So if anybody knows anyone who's being bullied, a big company, maybe like United Airlines, the way that United Airlines thought that they could treat my representative, a real man, a man who served for us, he's got one eye also. You thought that you could do that with his wife and the dog and stuff, Tim, and get away with it? No, you couldn't do that either.
Now, in this particular video, something that is noticeable is that his mouth is entirely blue, and not in the I am lacking oxygen and the skin tone is blue. The insides of his mouth are completely blue. A extremely strong, powerful blue. And the inference that most people are making, which I think is extremely plausible, is that he is currently chugging something that is now circulating in sort of the do your own health circles, the Maha extremes. Methylene blue. Yes.
That's right.
Methylene blue. Now, per Wikipedia, methylene blue can be used to treat hold on, I had this down earlier, but it's a very multisyllabic word that does not roll off the tongue easily. Methemoglobemia. And methemoglobemia is a condition of elevated methemoglobin in the blood. And methemoglobin is basically just a form of hemoglobin, which carries and distributes oxygen throughout your system. Symptoms may include headache, dizziness, shortness of breath, nausea, poor muscle coordination, and blue-colored skin. Now, that's what it's often used to treat. But in the extremes of the Maha section of the world, people are consuming methylene blue as a nootropic, something that boosts your mental and cognitive powers. And apparently, the reason they are doing this is that one of the features of this methylene blue is that it crosses what's called the blood-brain barrier, which is something that is a line, outer film around your brain that protects your brain from most things trying to invade it. Most things. But there are certain things that are able to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and therefore, whatever effects they may have can sometimes be amplified to an exceptional degree. Now, since I do not know all of the features and traits of this methylene blue, I do not know if this is capable of causing sort of a paranoia, a psychotic state. A lot of people observing his Instagram are, convinced he hasn't been sleeping in days. And it's unseen whether or not the methylene blue helps him while he's in that state, or if it harms him. But that, I'm attaching the video to the space, and of course, it's if you're seeing it in the timeline, it is the video where he is wandering around in the woods. Now, there are two additional short clips of his recent postings that I want to play, just to demonstrate the spectacle that he is creating. And if you visit his Instagram page, you will see that most people are wondering when someone is going to intervene. Well, I take that back. Most people are saying, wow, this is, a huge spectacle, and what, this guy's crashing out, as they call it. But others are saying, is someone going to intervene? His family could be at risk, in danger, and I agree. That does not prevent me 100% from still gawking at some of the spectacle. And these are the last two clips before, Alex, you will spill why you were on Team Liver King.
Good morning, primals. This is Mr. Enema Bucket. That's coffee, Keon coffee, the best kind, so I can drink some of the coffee both ways.
Now, if that audio did not come perfectly clear, he is demonstrating his coffee enema bucket that he will also drink the coffee out of at the same time as receiving the coffee enema. And a short while later, he posts a tour of either the hotel or his actual apartment he's staying in. I do not know which of which, and gives people a guided tour, explaining some of his daily routine right now.
I'm gonna make a quick video to weigh myself right now. In case you didn't know, I take shits on the ground. This is where I lay in the shower. I lay here on the ground. That's my enema bucket. That's my enema bucket right there. And that's what I'm about to do, is I'm gonna try and get a shit worked out. But I'm gonna weigh myself so that it's official. It's official. Here's what I weigh. Here we go. What's that weight, Sid? Can y'all see it?
Now, he's weighing himself because he is continuing to challenge Joe Rogan and believes that a Joe Rogan fight is somewhere in his future. It's really difficult, though, to 100% ascertain whether he is communicating that he shits himself on the floor because he is having a break, or if it is simply, similar sorts of exotic, extreme lifestyle behavior, such as consuming raw testicle. It's a little hard to determine which is which.
It's part of the simulated hunt, I think. Once you've simulated the hunt, I mean, where are you going to go? You're in the middle of the forest, simulatedly speaking.
I felt going through this tour was important because out of context, the Liver King is arrested for challenging Joe Rogan to a fight, begs for a further context and explanation.
Amazing.
All right, so Team Liver King, go ahead.
So I think there is one and really the one ancestral principle that I'm about to sell you. I'm not even going to ask you to sign up to my newsletter. How about that?
That's magnanimous, sir.
Thank you. Which is lie your ass off. I think humans have evolved to do that. We're very, very good at it. We can commit to the bit. We can convince ourselves of anything, even. We can act as if we believe it. So really, I mean, the Liver King did nothing wrong. He told you he was doing ancestral things, and then he proceeded to lie, cheat, and steal. Which, I mean, how can you get even any more ancestral than that? I don't know what people are mad at.
I will have to give you some props for that take, sir. That is a very accurate take and very reasonable and sound perspective.
The only thing I'm disappointed at is that he missed. He failed to spot it. To use it in his defense, I mean, it's flawless. I don't know how much.
When you're on your own in the forest, lying is not immoral.
Or with others, or murdering them. But I mean, there's the cops and stuff.
I mean, listen.
Challenging people to fights. I mean, come on.
I'm certainly not going to pretend that I'm above laughing at a lot of this. Now, to the extent that
also ancestral, also an ancestral.
Well, to the extent that anyone in his family is in harm's way, I really do, of course, hope that someone intervenes soon, because it is hard from the third party perspective to tell what's an act with him or what is a true, dangerous break that could end in someone being really harmed. But, given that he has already been preposterous and insane, I don't feel too much of a guilt in laughing at the continued preposterousness. And
No, I mean, in the ancestral environment, whenever you stream yourself, potentially presenting a danger to your children, I do think the ancestral CBP would, child whatever agency. Yeah, I think they do ancestrally tend to show up and take your children.
Before we transition,
even if you're joking about it.
Before we transition to other deeper topics, I want to open, if you can manage putting people on stage there. Pay attention to that since I still have no visibility.
Okay, so
requesting to speak.
I don't see any requests, but if anybody does request,
right. We'll wrap this one up, and while we give people time to request to speak, if they want to talk or comment about any.
I have one more observation, by the way.
Of course.
This is the second Brian Johnson health influencer that plates more dates as exposed as a fraud, which is
Now, tell me about the other Brian Johnson, and that is, if I'm not correct, the man who is currently using everything he can that is called scientific or technological to live forever.
That is correct. That is
the one who
don't die guy.
Nightly records his overnight erections and posts the metrics to Twitter.
Correct. And if you actually follow down that rabbit hole, you'll figure out that he is also taking testosterone in the form of a thing that he doesn't claims is not testosterone, making all of his erection data entirely pointless.
Get out of town.
What is wrong with these Brian Johnsons, man?
we need
Can't they just all sing for AC/DC and we can all be?
We need a complete ban on Brian Johnsons until we figure out what the hell is going on.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I mean, this is this when he first came out and hit the scene. Of course, his physique was what caught people's attention, because in isolation you can be impressed by the amount of physical work it takes to achieve something like that, whether it was aided or not. But as he continued to go on his supposed health campaigns and pretend to, or allegedly pretend to do it cynically and for profit only, his behavior became more and more bizarre. And I shared the link to the one person I played some of the clips of, the reviewer. These are more professional fitness people, so people who actually work in the industry, training athletes and things like that. Their career is actually in the area of nutrition and fitness for helping people target their actual fitness goals. Particularly for athleticism. So when you have the trade-off of muscle mass versus strength, you don't want to actually add too much weight to your body because you need the lightness, but you want to have strength. Like those sorts of trade-offs, the people who specialize in trying to understand the physiology of the human body to know what exercises will achieve particular goals in what parts of the body, things like that. That's one of the reviewers that I had clipped from there, or the reviewer primarily that I clipped from. His channel is very entertaining if this is a sort of thing you like, which is the smart snark and the sort of review of the mechanics. Obviously, some of it was fairly simple to snipe at. Didn't require any sort of expertise. But I wanted to give, since we always shit on the experts around here, I wanted to give a situation where perhaps an expert can get a little credit or something as for being the correct person in the discussion, probably.
Probably. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. We need to get Brett in here to do a review of the Liver King, I feel.
Well, I did review Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century to see where the coffee enema came into play.
That is a disturbing part of non-authenticity, because I mean, coffee is fairly new to the European breed, so I don't know how to square this. That is the most disturbing of everything else.
There's something askew in his methodology with the coffee enema. You're saying.
I feel like your evolutionary method took a
All right, I'm assuming there were no requests to speak.
Oh no, there was one. Oh yes, we have Seth. Hello, right. Seth.
Hey, how's it going? One thing from earlier, you were asking about the gaming incident. I played Path of Exile religiously when it first came out, way back when, and Elon was 100% lying about that. He confessed about that and Diablo. Diablo was the bigger confession, almost. It felt
what was
like
he lying about? If you could illuminate.
He just didn't understand the game. Like, the people that play this game are extremely on hardcore, which is what he was claiming to do, are ridiculously like all in. They will play for 48 hours straight, even longer when a new league comes out, they will and they don't pay other people to run their accounts. They stream the whole time, or a lot of them do anyhow, so you can recognize what's going on.
The kind of dedication that requires you to have like a mechanism to urinate because you can't leave the chair.
Yes, and when I was like in college and wasting more time playing this game than studying for a little bit there, it's just a no life thing, and I wasn't nearly one of the best players. They could just like trounce on me like it was nothing, as good as I felt like I was. I got decent at some of the races that would be like a couple hour long events, but it was it's a very hardcore community, way more hardcore than Diablo. So that's why he got away with the whole thing, saying he was the best in the world with Diablo. But when he came to Path of Exile, it just became too obvious.
Out of curiosity, have you tried eating bull testicles while playing? Perhaps that would have.
Maybe. I had originally seen that video with the Liver King and then hadn't kept up with him too much. And then a little bit of the controversy recently, but Gator enlightened me to a lot more that was going on with it all. I have tried methylene blue since that came up. I did like a 1 month supply just to see what it would do. It definitely gave nootropic effects up front. It was a little bit weaker towards the end of the month. I did it. I cycled every day, so 1 day on, 1 day off. I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't want to mess around with it too long because I just don't know what the side effects are going to be.
So
I'm not trying to.
As the temporary resident methylene blue expert, if you could take a gander at his mouth, is that a normal result of standard consumption of safe methylene blue levels, or is that some guy chugging it as if it were Kool-Aid?
I didn't see the picture. Is it?
It's in the feed here. It's in the feed. He's walking in the forest. It should just autoplay with even on silent for you, and you should be able to see the blue that's coating the inside of his mouth. Okay, I'm playing it now.
I couldn't tell you for sure because if you do it and you're not careful, you can get your mouth pretty blue just with a normal dose. But at the same time, if you're careful, you don't necessarily have to turn anything blue because I'm not trying to get my teeth blue when I take it.
Right. Okay.
And also, I will say on a normal dosage, I noticed I'm pretty routine with how much water I drink and everything. I would need to consume more water to feel fully hydrated. It would kind of dry me out a little bit. So it could definitely play some weird roles if he's doing at all extra. And I'm sure with his personality, he doesn't mind being like, well, I should take double or something along those lines. So
more is betterer.
Exactly.
There's no diminishing returns or even a return, a regress to negatives. It's all positives. If even if it's a logarithmic scale, you just gotta square the amount that you take in order to get the doubling of your power.
If we are plugging holes in our prior material, we have a listener who explained to me what who the philosopher was that I was missing.
Sure.
Which is René Girard.
Okay. I'm less familiar, so that's why the name didn't pop up for me. I was grabbing the ones that were available. I was looking where the light was shining, but not in the dark.
Have you heard of Girard before? Or
I've heard, but I am not familiar, so I don't know. I don't know the philosophy or anything like that. Like I could go on Baudrillard a bit, a decent amount, not hours, but I could.
You don't go full James Lindsay. Just.
Well, I mean, there's things that Lindsay says that have a lot more clarity when you understand what the background text that he's talking about. But I do know that sometimes it's really difficult to talk about those esoteric things and not get clipped because the things that you're saying do sound kind of goofy when you're doing it like that. So
yeah.
I've been catching James in some hypocrisy with some of his tweets, though. There's been 2 different moments where within 24 hours time period, he says things to just completely contradict each other. I've got a couple of those posts on my feed somewhere.
Well, it's Twitter. You can have at it, and the wild, wild west.
Anyway, yeah. So we plugged that hole. I feel like the audience is making us smarter here.
Well, certainly now I know that the Liver King's methylene blue consumption could be totally normal. and that the blue mouth is just
Be
the
the
thing
one
that you get.
thing that's holding him together, man. You know.
Now, my question is, what other things does it do? Does he now have a case of blue balls? What other sorts of blue issues? And is this actually where Eiffel 65 came up with the song Blue? These are important questions that I have now. And
Well, once RFK did was caught sort of on a camera.
It said that
doing
he
his,
squirted
his
blue into like a drink he was having, and then people were wondering if it
Mhm,
was methylene
mhm.
blue. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he plugs you into that wearable, he wants everybody to have. You can
Expand on the wearable, because I've been sort of zoned out of that portion. I heard a little bit about it, but I didn't.
So he came up just sort of unprovoked, randomly. Like he was in some sort of Senate hearing, and the senator was like, like when you hear a Putin interview and you hear a question from a journalist and you're like, oh, okay, that's what a planted question sounds like. It was kind of like that, where the senator was like, there's these amazing things that are called wearables, and what do you think about wearables? Shouldn't we all be wearing wearables, or like something like that? And by the way, the wearables thing is a little bit more important because Casey Means, who he has plugged as his sort of Surgeon General, even though she's never really practiced as a doctor, was the founder of Levels, which is a wearables company. So it's like, all right, what's the deal here? And he basically said, and I have no idea how this came out of his mouth, what the fuck is wrong with him, but he's like, my vision is that every American is going to be on a wearable in 4 years.
Now
and
these
you're like,
wearables, what exactly do they provide then? What is the?
we're talking about Fitbits, right? Or who
Okay.
knows what, or glucose monitors, or a device that has a sensor or more, one or more sensors on you that can monitor your, some biomarker of your health, right? From your pulse to your glucose to whatever, in real time, presumably, to create a feedback loop for you, right? And that's where the EAC and the MAHA come in contact with each other, because the question is like, should we be doing what we can to restore our ability to understand our own bodies, or should we be adding additional, external feedback loops, because apparently humans are deficient in understanding themselves, and just evolution never thought to give us a glucose sense. You know what I mean? Like, we made it this far, but apparently the solution to Maha is a glucose. It's there's something just absolutely stupid about the whole proposition on some level, which is like, if we don't have it, why do we need, like,
I can
what is the objective?
I can make light arguments, and of course, usually these arguments boil down to individual choices people should be able to make, not massive top-down recommendations or movements like that. So what I'm going to say is, of course, it should be thought of in that vein. I can understand, certain things like Fitbits, where if someone is really unaware of their behavior, like they're kind of drifting through, and let's say that they find themselves in a place where they're not particularly healthy. Let's say that their caloric consumption is excessively high, and they can vaguely understand calorie counting and stuff like that. They have to look at the packages and they start counting calories, but now they don't have a sense of anything showing what their daily calorie expenditure is. And if they don't know that intuitively, maybe they can do some research, but now if they even start to work out, they don't understand what the effort they've put into, how many calories they might burn. And these Fitbits and things are not particularly great. They have they have a degree of accuracy that's not perfect, but to the extent that they can give you some feedback, I can see it, being informative in some ways. Now, to the extent that you keep adding the number of things, it becomes, just like most things, it becomes a crutch, and it becomes an obsession. So, you're measuring your heart rate. Next thing you know, you're measuring, I actually do have a sleep measurer, just because I'm curious, because I'm unconscious the entire time I'm sleeping. And unfortunately, sometimes I could sleep for 4 hours and feel fine, sleep for 8 hours and feel like crap. And so I don't know what I'm doing in the middle of sleep. So I have something that tells me.
Are you measuring your erections though?
I am not measuring my erections. This is, I mean,
that's your problem.
Well, well, not the how long they last, at least. Okay.
This is a very interconnected episode. I'll tell you that much.
All right. So I can see, reasons that people might be interested to know that you can look at some of these things. Just the same way. It's like, more advancements to the scale we've had for years. You don't necessarily have an intuitive sense exactly of what your weight is unless you start to learn in a numerical connection between the metric of a pound or a horrible thing like a kilogram, and what it feels like to be that weight and things like that. So it's I can understand having some feedback, but when it becomes an obsession, or you feel that the solution to everything is telling people all of this stuff, that's going to have some perverse incentives.
Yeah, no, it's just that it wasn't like oh, wearables are interesting or whatever. It was everybody, and it's like wait a minute, like I don't know. It just feels very thoughtless, like much of a lot of what he's tweeted out recently. I feel like he's doing good work, or at least he's following through on stuff that his supporters expected. Which I'm not going to get into, but there's just some of these weird notes, and honestly, Brett Weinstein had the best take, which is that it appears clear that what is happening is he's had to make some trade-offs, right, to achieve what he wants. He's had to sort of assuage certain other allies that will assist him in doing what he wants, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But it just comes off idiotic, you know what I mean? It's just like it's like that's not you, right? We know what RFK stands for. Like, he's written his books thoroughly. Like, that is not what comes out of his mouth. So you then start to wonder, who put that in there? Why is he saying it? Why does he act like he believes it? Like, what is going on? And unfortunately, and this is like really the worst part of all of this, these weird, unexplained sort of utterances that come out of nowhere. There's no preparation work. He hasn't written a book about how he has seen the light about digital feedback loops as opposed to pharmaceuticals, say, right, or whatever. He just comes out and says, "Oh, my vision," and is that everybody's going to be having a wearable in 4 years. And by the way, that's the true meaning of Maha. Just to top it off, so that unfortunately feeds the Whitney Webbs of the world, saying, I told you so. This guy is a fraud, and it's stringing you along, and there's some big plan to plug everybody into the cloud and take all your data and turn you into some sort of AI slave or whatever. And it's just disconcerting. I don't know. For all I know, she could be right at this point. But that's where all of it sort of starts becoming dark and weird, and the whole Palantir connections start to just, I don't know, just make you.
Well, we had the Peter Thiel segment, and you didn't mention Palantir, so.
Oh, trust me, we're going to Iran, and I am going to mention Palantir there. So
okay, all right.
Saving my bullets.
Well, I think we can talk about Iran. I don't necessarily want to go if we can, not do a field trip on this. Speaking of which, so there's good news and bad news about having this show be once a week, and that is there's unfortunately so much to go on. I can't fit all of it in and talk about. We can't fit all of it in and talk about all of the things that we possibly could talk about of importance. The good, trade-off to that is that some things resolve themselves a little bit better by the end of the week when we can talk about them than the early chaos. And one of the subjects is, at least if it's not the truth, it's the consensus somewhat of the damage that has probably been done to Iran's nuclear facilities in the aftermath of the attack. Early in the week, there was Natasha Bertrand, posted a story with, I believe CNN was the initial outlet, saying that there were reports, assessments that basically, for lack of a better term, nothing was really damaged, and Trump responded in the way that Trump does, saying that it was offensive, to the pilots, which is sort of irrelevant. They can do a great job and be great pilots, and the mission could still be declared unsuccessful, and they should be big boys and be able to handle a declaration that the mission objectives did not, complete to their, full satisfaction without them feeling personally slighted about their job performance. But even if they were feeling personally slighted, I think the reality is a little bit more important than their feelings, and just declaring victory because their feelings would be hurt is not the
He's
best.
doing it for them, man.
Now, on the flip side, Natasha Bertrand's also the person who has been used by, we'll call it the deep state, several times in recent history, to cause some of the most incorrect disinformation campaigns against Trump. So there is a little bit of, biting your breath, or biting your tongue, and biding your time to see what she's posting, to see if there's any even. Now, you can trust that someone gave her something that was possibly an assessment, but you can't necessarily trust the degree of confidence that came from, what might have been missing. So she was originally the person who posted the Steele dossier, got her hands on the Steele dossier, which we now know to basically be an entire disinformation campaign, and was also the person who distributed the 51 former intelligence officers saying the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. So she has been, in my estimation, a tool used when convenient to push narratives by actors whose authenticity can be doubted, and every time her reporting is defended.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Now, as time evolves, and we arrive here today, I have Iran International, which is a news outlet I've been going to more in the recent times, simply because, not because it's perfect or isn't going to suffer from biases that I have to check for, but because its focus has always been news about Iran for the Iranian diaspora around the world. Diaspora, sorry. I'm using what I believe you were correct on last week is the correct pronunciation that I was wrong on. The diaspora.
I don't think there are. I don't think correct pronunciations exist. So that's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, that gives me wide latitude, sir.
Yes.
And they did an interview with a former IAEA nuclear inspector to give a summary. Now, hopefully his accent translates well as I allow him some room to go through an assessment, and I will summarize for everyone and myself also the higher level view of what they claim was damaged, how it plays into the development of a nuclear bomb in general, so that people can have a sensible idea of what the consensus is, not necessarily what's true, but what the current narrative consensus is.
Gator, I'd appreciate that you just say what you think or what this person themselves. Like, I don't think there's a consensus, so I don't want to get caught up on whether it is or it isn't. So maybe just represent what this person is saying, and I don't know why you believe it or not or whatever. But I think calling it a consensus is going to cause
the reason I'm calling it
back
a consensus is because the IAEA is pushing this. In the New York Times and other media is starting to consolidate on this being the accepted status based off of, according to EU governments, US governments, and things like that.
That is a consensus.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
You can object to the definite article that you use there. I don't. I will agree with your objections in the sense that I am not pushing this as the full reality. I'm saying that this is what many to most people on the stage are going with at this time. Is that?
Yeah, no, I understand this to be the Western mainstream media bubble is going with this, which is fair enough.
Okay. Now, before I get into that, I do want to say there was one clearly positive outcome. Absolutely, hands down positive outcome, in my opinion, from this. And that is the extremely popular podcast in progressive left circles, Pod Save America, which is comprised of former Obama staffers and such. They have strongly come to the realization that it's not necessarily a good idea for the executive to have such unilateral power to be able to possibly get the country into war on whims.
Noticed that Trump had decided to launch an attack. They're pointing out that Congress has the authority to declare war, not the president. There are different legislative efforts to rein in Trump's military action, including one by Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. Chuck Schumer's trying to get a vote on the issue as soon as this week, so we'll see where that goes. AOC, among other Democrats, did write on Twitter that Trump's move was, quote, grounds for impeachment. Obviously, that's not going to happen anytime soon. What do you guys make of the way that Democrats have responded so far?
No, I mean, I think some Democrats have been great. I think Ro Khanna has been great. Tim Kaine has been a really principled leader on this kind of set of issues for a long time. He's trying to repeal the AUMF. I wish AOC didn't say the impeachment thing. I think it just kind of like muddles the debate and gives them something to caricature. I think the congressional leadership has been terrible. Before the war started, Chuck Schumer was accusing Trump of tacoing on Iran, like basically calling him soft. Hakeem Jeffries was asked about Ro Khanna's bill today, and he said, quote, haven't taken a look at it. The bill is 3 pages long, pretty big font. So, like there's kind of two categories of response from Democrats. One is Congress should have voted on this first. And I think that's great. That's important. And everyone should make that case. And I realize I'm a hypocrite for working for Obama, and the Libya conflict was not something that was congressionally authorized. But I think more generally, what I want to see from Democrats is to forcefully argue that diplomacy was a better way to solve the problem. The Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, worked. It was working when we pulled out of it. When Trump pulled out of it, Trump's own staff wanted him to stay in the JCPOA. They said it was in our national security interest. They testified before Congress that Iran was in compliance. And then he pulled out of the deal. And then Iran started enriching uranium and funding more money for their proxy forces. And that's why we got to the war. And so a diplomatic deal is how you permanently solve the problem. Bombing Iran is a temporary solution with all kinds of secondary and third order impacts that we just can't predict. And I think we need to make the case that diplomacy is better and fight for those agreements when we cut them, like Obama did in 2015.
I went back and looked at some of the votes that the Republican House led when President Obama announced military involvement in Libya and started the bombing campaign in Libya. And you had all these House Republicans say that the president had no right to do this without congressional authorization. You also had 70 Democrats join in that vote, right? One of whom was Chris Murphy. Another was Tammy Baldwin, who was, I think, really consistent on this. And I want to hear more from Democrats who are willing to say, hey, we have allowed presidential authority to go way too far. The problem with Donald Trump being president is not just because of his, his flaws and criminality. It's because he's in a job that is way too powerful and that both parties contributed to making more powerful. When President Obama sought congressional authority for military strikes in Syria, he said, I don't need to do this, but it's just something I want to do. And that was wrong. It just was. It was the wrong thing to say because it made it as if that there's this sort of, we live in this perpetual gray area where what the president can or cannot do is a kind of complicated and divine bit of religion that only the lawyer priests can help us figure out, and they can disagree. But now it's like we need to start having a kind of clear position about the need to limit presidential authority over time, even when there are moments where Democratic presidents have not wanted to cede that control. And I think it starts with Democrats who've been consistent all along, and even some maybe that who haven't been, being willing to say the president cannot start wars without first going to Congress for approval, unless there is a clear imminent threat that Congress has been notified of.
Now, you can take objections to anything they said in there, but I personally feel that's refreshing. Now we'll see how long that they maintain that. So if we don't die in some sort of nuclear or AI holocaust in the next sort of sort of 4 years.
I think it was incredibly clear and honest that they don't really care about the constitutional argument. They just don't. They just think that they should have done the deal. So that's why they're trying to put sand in the gears. So, yeah.
Well, no.
job.
He did specifically say, and I forgive me, I do not know the name off the top of my head of the speaker. He did say, that it was wrong for Obama to say, I don't have to do this, that I'm just doing it for fun, to get authorization. And, the...
How did you feel about Obama droning U.S. citizens? Was that
Obama
okay? Was that cool?
Droning
U.S. citizens in Yemen.
Drone. Oh no, them. Are you asking them or me? Because I'm not particularly enthusiastic about that. In fact, when Rand
I don't know.
Rand Paul did a record filibuster at the time, he was widely mocked for doing it by.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I can't with these people. They find their conscience right now, and then
that's what I was going to say. If we survive,
the only person that I do give some credence to is Ro Khanna, because I believe that he did the same thing under the Democratic administration. That's the only person who deserves to talk. Everybody else can go take a hike.
Well, I was saying, we'll see if whenever a Democrat is back in office, if they keep the tune.
I will bet you good money. If you'll take my money, I will bet it.
No, I might actually, I might actually be as pessimistic as you are. That's the problem. I want, I want someone to actually say, no, let's be optimistic, Gator, and then be right. I want to, I need my cynicism curtailed.
And then this Chris Murphy guy, by the way, he was he was one of the principal agitators for the Ukraine conflict. So it's like, oh man, go fuck yourselves, all of you.
Everything
is
the
awesome.
one
One that they say was good under the under Obama on not going to whatever conflict, Syria, but he was a primary sort of driver with McCain, I believe, in driving the Ukraine thing. So it's like, basically, I don't think Khanna is like that, but many of these other ones, we're looking at the Uni Party configuring itself, and then they're like, oh, but under a Democratic administration, he said blah blah blah, and it's like, there's a ton of Republicans who think that there should be ground forces in Iraq. That doesn't mean that they're dissenting against the administration per se. They just have a different take. I don't know if I'm articulating this correctly, but it's. The whole situation is a lot more swampy than they make it look like. Let me put it this way.
Well, yes, it's there's a stereotypical sort of anti-capitalist complaint, and that is you have the freedom to choose Coke or Pepsi, right? Where the differences between the two things are so small that you don't. It's the illusion of freedom versus true freedom. Now, of course, I don't subscribe to that specific incarnation of the objection, but it's a decent example, and that you could just sort of target that instead of Coke or Pepsi. It's the two parties, which I do sort of subscribe to as them not being different enough for me to care too much.
I believe the libertarian articulation of this is whoever you vote to, you get John McCain.
Oh man!
You can vote for Trump or you can vote for Kamala, but you're getting Liz Cheney.
All right, I'm gonna move on to the former IAEA inspector to give the summary. Now, Alex, let me know. Try to just interrupt if his accent is coming through poorly, because sometimes I can't tell what comes through the Twitter Spaces on the receiving end until afterwards. So. If this is not audible, I'll just skip it and read what I have.
Ron.
Okay.
Ali Hainonim joins us now, the former Deputy Director General of the IAEA and someone who has tracked Iran's nuclear activities for decades. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. President Trump entered NATO, projecting triumph. Do you see it that way, or does the threat of a nuclear Iran still remain?
Unfortunately, there is still a threat which is remaining, but I explain why I say so. In a big picture, if we look at the devastating strikes in Fordo, Natanz or Isfahan, major capabilities to produce fissile material for civilian and nuclear weapons purposes have definitely stopped, as the major places where those materials can be converted, for example, to uranium metal or nuclear weapons components. Those have been destroyed and will take a long time for Iran to recover those locations. That's for sure. But at the same time, there is a word of caution. As we remember, Iran had more than 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium when this hostility started. Actually, it should be now somewhere 450 kilos or so, because the facilities continued to operate after IAEA report in the end of May. Where is that material is the first question. Foreign Minister Arachi said, was it on 12th or 13th of June, that they plan to move it to a secure place. Where it was taken, I don't think we know. Intelligence may know. But before IAEA has verified that this material has been put back under the IAEA control, one should not relax, because this material as such is enough for about 10 nuclear weapons if it is enriched further to 90%. Then someone may ask, but they were just wiped away, these enrichment plants, so why to worry? One has to worry, because such kind of installation which can convert this material in a matter of days for the first weapon needs about 1,000 centrifuges only. It's just a normal workshop, if you look at it from the satellite imagery, about the size what has been the above ground pilot fuel enrichment plant in Natanz. Not a big building. And it would be very difficult to find because it can be concealed among other technical buildings in any industrial site or warehouse complex. So until people know that there is no such installation and that the material has been accounted for, the threat is there. So in a big picture, yes, Mr. Trump was correct, but it should have had this caveat telling that it's not yet over.
So for this unaccounted, over, you said 900 pounds of enriched uranium and unaccounted, not knowing where it is, with that, how long then, in terms of the process of weaponization, would it take for the Iranian regime to be able to produce a nuclear weapon?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's take the worst case scenario and think that they have somewhere hidden 1,000 centrifuges, which we don't know. They are of this IR6 type. It's not a big facility. Centrifuges, they have enough. They could have done this already months ago and set it up for a rainy day. So such a facility is needed, and then you need this material. You need about maybe 40, 50 kilograms for the first weapon. You pass it through this enrichment process. It's a matter of days when you have it as a weapons grade material. But then you still don't have a weapon. You need to take this high enriched uranium, convert it to uranium metal, make it to proper shape, machine it. And since it's a highly critical material, you need to work with the fairly small batches in controlled conditions. So it will take all this about 1 month.
That's it?
According to the IAEA standards, from start to have the weapon components on your hand. But then comes the question, what about the rest of the weapon? If they have done that, what Mr. Salehi was alluding a bit more than a year ago, that, if everything is already on the shelf, electronics, high explosives, etc., then 1 month, 6 weeks, the first weapon is there in such kind of scenario.
Just 6 weeks away.
Yes, if it exists. Yeah, but now we have to think a little bit more cautiously also at this time. There has been a lot of military strikes. Has the infrastructure, we have seen that some people have been getting killed, but this is not really the leadership of the weapons program, so to say. Where are the people who are those who actually process that material, assemble that material? They are technicians, they are engineers, they are people who get their hands dirty with this material. Are they still available? If they are available, then this scenario, also speaks for a first weapon, are in principle possible. Does intelligence know those people? Does intelligence know where they are? At this point of time, I think at the way I see the Israeli announcement, the US serious announcements, they are working to find out those. And important at this point of time is that the IAEA can enter quickly, verify where this high-enriched uranium is, because if they find all that, I think that then we can a little bit relax in such a scenario.
But if, let's say, the Iranians don't cooperate with the IAEA now, is there any way to be able to track where this uranium is?
Only intelligence. There is no magic detector which you fly around and say, okay, it's there. No. Intelligence, IAEA, and Iran's cooperation. If Iran wants to prove that they have the material, why to hide it? If they have no intention to use it, why to hide it? So I think that next 1 week or so is, in that sense, very important. And I'm sure, US has set up certain requirements for that meeting, which is planned to be taken next week to that end.
So I have another clip I'll play in a moment, but so far, Alex, any thoughts?
I don't know. He basically said nothing, as far as I can tell. He gave no information. He says, yes, it was destroyed. Why? We don't know. Who are you? I'm the former head of the IAEA. So what is your motivation to increase the power of the IAEA? And what are you doing advocating for more inspections? Thank you.
Okay.
What did I learn? Nothing. I don't know what you learned, but I learned nothing from this guy.
Well, okay, so there's several layers. One, there is the claims about what was destroyed and what is not known to be destroyed. Then there is the truth behind those claims and the question of how one ascertained the knowledge. So the verification of the claims. So you seem to be specifically, strictly on, you were not presented with any explanation for how specifics were verified, not necessarily
just be mindful that I've been consuming, everything I can find on people. Wait, give me a sec. Who have been sort of trying to figure out these assessments over the last week.
Surprisingly,
like literally everything.
That's why we have the space and I ask you for the thoughts, so you can
I get it.
help balance it out.
This is why I'm saying I didn't learn anything from him, because he, for my state of knowledge, he didn't add anything.
So
that's all I'm saying.
If you would indulge me,
and this is why I'm also pushing back on the concept of consensus, because depends who you ask, as far as I can tell.
Well, so if you will indulge me, I think it would.
Do I do anything else, Gator? Of course, I'll indulge you.
Serve all of us better if we can find what it is that you have learned in the last week that maybe shows a different set of conclusions and why. so that we can all have that, versus why what I have procured has no value.
No, I'm not saying. Okay, sorry. I don't mean to make.
You didn't hurt my feelings. I'm just trying to nudge
No.
to.
No, I don't. That's not what I meant. I'm literally commenting on this person that it's not even true that I didn't learn anything. I learned what the IAEA wants to project as their message, and it makes perfect sense as a message because they need to accomplish two objectives right now. They need to get themselves back in there, and they need to curry a favor with Trump. And that creates a problem because Trump has been promoting the narrative that they destroyed everything, and there's not even need for a New Deal, really, because what's the point? So they are politically what he's doing. I mean, maybe that's the truth. I don't know, but like it just is extremely helpful to him to thread the needle and say, yes, of course you destroyed all the facilities, but there's this other thing that we need to be in there for. So
is there a situation where I mean, given that the task of the IAEA would be to do inspections, of course anything is going to involve a desire to do inspections. Is there anything he could say that wouldn't automatically become discounted by that acknowledgement of the bias in his perspective?
Yes. So first of all, the first thing anybody from the IAEA or related to the IAEA needs to do is condemn the strikes on sites that are supposed to be protected by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is what happened. Okay, you can't just move on. Like something happened that is absolutely terrible for the non-proliferation regime, such as it is. Okay, this is also very similar to something that happened earlier in the unrelated but really quite related front of Ukraine, where the Russians have taken over the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Okay, which was formerly Ukrainian, and the IAEA has retained its inspectors there, right? Because that's what a lot of countries do. That they're saying, look, this is a fight, but you can still monitor that we're running it properly, and there's no risk of, contamination or whatever. However, there were these news reports that the plant was being shelled, and you can read these articles in the New York Times that keep talking about the shelling of that plant, but somehow they don't mention who is doing the shelling, with the implication being that it's Russia, of course, because Russia is attacking in Ukraine. But if you think it through, it's like they're saying that the Russians are shelling the plant that they currently control, which makes no sense. But the IAEA did not, was being extremely vague in their reports about the situation, about who was actually doing the shelling. And this created a lot of bad blood because, it's unfortunate that Ukraine was attacking the nuclear power plant, and it puts you in a very tough spot to say that. But okay, like that's what's happening. Anyway, so that same agency now is also playing coy and pretending like nothing happened, right? When in fact what happened is that the reports that they were producing, right, about these facilities that Iran had allowed them to inspect and gave them a lot of information about for all these years, were used to plan the strike that could have led to, theoretically, right, that was the point, to destroy this material, contamination, which is not supposed to happen under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And also, by the way, like, what does a country get for signing the NPT, right? You're committing not to develop weapons. What's the carrot, right? The carrot is that you get the right, and some would say the protection of the other signatories in your pursuit of non-military nuclear research. That's kind of the trade. But Iran is constantly being sort of dogged to sign additional stuff and give up enrichment, even to 3% or to 20%, which have extremely valid civilian applications. You see the Stuxnet stuff, which again is interfering with nuclear facilities, and again should be, is cute, technically speaking, but is also, subject to the same concerns that somebody is messing with nuclear facilities, and you don't want that. Anyway, so long story short, the IAEA has put itself in a whole world of hurt right now, and is continuing to discredit itself. And through the IAEA, the entire nuclear non-proliferation regime is doing that. And that, to me, they are the biggest loser essentially of this whole situation. Is the IAEA, and the reports coming out of China and Russia, etc., about their behavior are not good at all. Like, they are demonstrating what I'm saying. It's not just Iran that has voted to kick them out, and they don't want to hear anything about them. But they're getting strong critique from other large nuclear powers across the world. And yeah, I mean, what did you expect?
Okay. Based off of what you currently have been able to understand, do you have any opinion on, we'll call it, just for lack of a better term, call it success on the destruction of the sites that were targeted?
So my counsel for everyone is to invest heavily in uncertainty on this question. I have severe doubts, and those doubts come from seeing people who know how this stuff works, and what kind of information the DIA might have had that might have led to this report. But it's all conjecture. It's conjecture and speculation. Ultimately, I don't even know if the Iranians know. I don't even know if they have put somebody down there. So, and I know for a fact, I think we can be pretty sure that when Trump said, within minutes, that they have obliterated everything, that
everything Trump says, everything Trump says when he tweets it on Truth Social, by the rules of what the name of the platform is gospel.
Is gospel, exactly. The problem with that is that he commits to it, and then everybody else has to dance to that tune. Which they should have been doing.
Clarity. The reason I find what is being said valuable, and why I do caveat it as I don't know if it's true, is simply because these are sort of the official positions that people are taking, and therefore, under the context of people will be abiding by what was said, it is extremely important to go through.
It is the same as telling me that the WHO says the shots are safe and effective. Right. I understand
that had huge impact. That had huge impact.
Or,
right.
Or you can look into the OPCW drama in Syria, and which is a very closely related organization. And in fact, Grossi, the head of the IAEA, was previously at the OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Warfare, I believe. It's like the chemical watchdog, let's say. Where they have almost certainly done extremely questionable things to the reports coming out of Syria to promote a certain narrative over another.
Let me say this. There's the political reality and the physical reality. Let's say, if we can, for the moment, that might be an imperfect sort of frame, but for the moment, I think it'll be adequate to say, if we spend too much time focusing on the physical and ignoring the political, then we can't predict what the political moves will necessarily be. But if we also then spend too much time assuming the political is the physical, then we will also not see potential hidden vulnerabilities or hidden trajectories of the unfolding as they go forward. And so, if when I talk about these things, if we keep
the map and the territory are entangled. The map and the territory are entangled bidirectionally, unfortunately. So I agree with you that it is important to notice that basically what Trump did, to the best of my understanding, is he had a petulant child complaining about a headache that that he knew was not a problem, or he whatever. I don't know if he knew or not. but he basically gave him a sugar pill and insists that it is the best drug ever. And now we all have to, the people that don't want tantrums all have to agree that it is the best drug ever. And I just have a hard time doing that, even though I don't want tantrums, just to be clear. So, I see a lot of people that agree with me saying effectively like, oh, shut up, man. Yeah. They had a weapons program and now it's been destroyed. Yeah. Oh, you're such a great.
So I've been very vocal. Granted, if you casually jump in and out of my feed, you may not understand the full spectrum of my opinions because half of it's snark in whatever direction. Sometimes I'm saying things just as a joke that don't actually align with my true beliefs, which is why we do this space, and I can expand on stuff. And sometimes I'm just sniping at everybody because I think everybody is wrong. And but I think I've been fairly clear that people celebrating too early, celebrating from the, hey, Trump was right, we aren't in World War III perspective, are doing this too prematurely because as I made a joke about art, nobody even knows what an archduke is. The Archduke Ferdinand, as the exemplar start of World War I, World War I didn't officially start for a month after he was assassinated, which is he's typically referred to as the event that was the precursor to the entire war. And so there's plenty of things that can happen after this current ceasefire and supposed mark of the end of the war that can happen, particularly with the ambiguity about the potential damage. And even if, let's say, this IAEA head, this former guy, is accurate and that the facilities are destroyed, but that, hey, look, there's stuff moving around, that if a smaller facility exists, they could enrich it from 60 to 90. And I have, other things that are a consensus in the Western media, as you put it there, solidifying that if we just accept that without further concern and say, hey, mission accomplished in victory, and we allow Trump to just assert that and we say, that must be true, we wind up boxing ourselves in with things that could be the underlying reality, and have set ourselves up for a large set of, possibly all mutually untenable positions. So
that has happened already. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The U.S. with what it did, it has basically killed the non-proliferation regime, not just for Iran, but for pretty much everybody else. It has demonstrated that attempting to negotiate is non-viable, effectively. That if you want to have your sovereignty respected, you need a nuke. If you were the Ayatollah right now, would you be racing to a nuke or no?
If I were the Ayatollah, my life would be way too confusing to actually have a specific plan, because the based off of this quote consensus that I'm gathering, the best that they would be able to procure in a short amount of time would be a crude weapon that would not be well served to the extent that it would have some sort of mutually assured destruction properties.
So let me give you some information that I think is pretty as close to
But mind you, if they could race to it, it creates an additional complexity in the argument that there was no reason to do this, quote unquote, because the whole idea, as if I can use an analogy, which I don't often go to too extreme of analogies, it's like a man who is talking to about 20 different women online and saying, I'm not cheating, so therefore it's all okay, when all he's really doing is actually just making sure that he has the opportunity to take it whenever he's there. So if they can do, in the aftermath of this attack, if they can assemble a bomb in extremely short order, it goes against the statement that they were years away or something like that.
Well, it perhaps, except if the inspectors were the problem, for example, who are not inspecting anything right now because of the strikes, right? Or perhaps the political willpower was the problem, which may have been replenished.
So let me answer your question though more in full.
Let me give you the. I want to give you the physics of it so you can understand.
Sure, and then I'll give you my answer more in full to your question if I were the Ayatollah, because it is an actually important question I think I should expand on.
Yeah. So basically, there's two types of nukes that are sort of low tech. Okay, we're not talking about hydrogen stuff. We're talking about plutonium and uranium nukes. Iran does not have the plutonium to make a plutonium nuke. So the only one we're talking about is the uranium nuke. Now, when was the first uranium nuke ever fired? If you know, at all in any circumstance.
Do not know.
It was over a Japanese city, one of the two, because
Okay.
they were so sure it was going to work. It's so low tech, they didn't even test it. The Trinity test was for the plutonium one.
Gotcha.
Right. So,
well, I didn't know if you were. Yeah. So I literally, when I didn't, that specific fact, if you're saying it, if you're telling me right now is accurate that they didn't test it, I didn't know if tests were counted or not.
No, that's why I said in any situation. But mostly, I thought that the Trinity test was for both. I suppose I didn't, whatever. But no, that the one that they tested was the plutonium one, which is a lot more complicated. The uranium one is the simple one. Which is what they call a gun type nuke. You basically shoot one pellet of material into another pellet of material.
Well, right, because you're hitting a critical mass and it causes a cascade event. Yeah.
So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other, but the catch with this is that you can't miniaturize it, right? So what they believed is that even if they could manufacture it, right, like the way they threw those on Japan is they literally dropped them from a plane that was they were gravity bombs. They were not guided bombs. But what I heard somewhere else is that Iran does have medium range, not US bound, but like Israel maybe. Bombs that rockets that can carry a weight that is sufficient. So that is a question that needs to be very, very clarified. But at least one person I saw named the precise missile that they have that can carry a certain payload size that will be sufficient. So then you get into real trouble, because Iran has local centrifuge manufacturing capacity, as everybody agrees. They could definitely have stashed a few of them, as everybody agrees. And if all the other pieces are in line, and this is again, right, 1940s technology. We're not talking about something that is out of reach of a modern.
They could throw a couple extra Raspberry Pis on there with some Chat GPTs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could make it AI accelerated. If
exactly.
You want.
Yeah.
It could do memes as it explodes.
They could do DeepSeek, right? That could run on the low powered stuff.
That's right. So it is unfortunately. Let me put it differently. If you were gonna do this, which is what they did, which is gonna create a massive blind spot, and then gonna run to the world community and say like, oh, we didn't, we should do more. We really need to do more because they might be running. If they weren't running to a weapon before, they're running now. You're in a tough spot because to a large degree you caused this, specifically the blind spot where they don't know where the uranium is. They used to. Now they don't. They used to have inspectors and sensors and everything on the ground. Now they don't. And they used to have the support, by the way, of Russia and China, which now they don't. So one thing that people don't know also is that the GCPOA was meant to settle UN Security Council resolutions that were demanding that Iran sort of submit to inspections, etc., around its nuclear program, right? And the Security Council does not make decisions without the vote of at least the abstention, but I think in this case it was affirmative vote from China and Russia. So back in the 2010s, everybody was together trying to control this program. Right now, what you have is Russia and China saying, you guys fucked up. You've lost us. You've lost our trust. You've lost our support. And Iran is basically under our wing. So the situation has gone from bad to, let's say, the pre JCPOA to worse, which is the JCPOA, to terrible post JCPOA, to right now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Like, well, so okay, so I think a lot of your your objections and concerns are salient. I don't know if I agree with you on the magnitude necessarily. But you know, all of your stated objections to these things are accepted, at least as, you know, they're very salient and open for strong consideration to their impact. Now, to get back to the question of, you know, the Ayatollah itself, the Ayatollah has no strong knowledge about what his enemies know. He also has no, at the moment, good ability to know who and what he can trust inside of his infrastructure. There may be degrees of confidence he can have in individuals, but as the large apparatus goes, he does not know who is a traitor to the Iranian regime and who is absolutely 100% with him. He does not know what information and ability to gather intel Israel still has, and therefore his decision-making set is going to be extremely confusing and mired with distrust, such that he would almost have to dedicate all of his resources to one end goal, which he might do, but that's a complexity in it, and that at the consequence of all other considerations going on, which could be also an opportunity for a revolution that he would need to quell. So there's a lot to consider that makes his, you know, I guess it's hard for me to say what I would do without knowing more about all of the considerations, but I can describe the complexities that I would face. I'm sorry?
You know what prevents regime change operations? A nuke. Unfortunately, you're looking at the one.
No. Listen,
you know,
that's correct. Which is why also the majority of the opposition to the quote quest for a nuke was there. It wasn't necessarily for concerns about the acquisition of a singular nuke and the damage it could do from a attack. Just in and of itself, it would be that it was a defensive posturing that would prevent the future ability to do.
Still think that this was about. I'm under the impression you're still thinking that this was about preventing Iran from getting nukes.
So since the beginning of this, I talked about regime change. So, you know, from weeks ago. So I really don't know.
Yeah.
Where my
so then
thoughts on the matter are starting to morph in your mind, but I'm not talking about.
Okay.
There can be excuses. There can be multiple concerns.
Perfect.
There can be
perfect. Because I haven't prepared it to read, but I can tell you with 100% certainty because I've traced it down myself. The U.S. negotiators were talking about allowing Iran to do the 3.67% enrichment until I believe the third meeting in the cycle.
Okay.
And then which you know they could have had a very long-term deal if they didn't like the 10-year horizon on the JCPOA. They could have had a non-terminating deal, whatever, with even more guarantees and whatever, so long as they allowed some level of domestic enrichment. And then they switched their position midstream to no enrichment, and at some point I think I even heard no missiles to begin with, which was not going to fly. Okay, so if they wanted a strong regime where they could have good visibility on all this stuff, that was available to them, and they did not take it. So I this is extremely important to understand, because
there is a risk that I want to highlight in some of the framing, and that is sometimes the presentation seems to be that the Iranian regime has always been acting in good faith throughout all of the agreements that existed. They were not pursuing any alternate goals or violations of the agreement and using using excuses to hide activity that they were engaged in, and that simply because there were agreements and certain aspects of the agreements were being followed upon, that all of the deception and all of the malfeasance occurs on our side. Now, obviously, there is way too much.
So we're clear,
We
that's
do
not
everything
what I'm
right.
saying.
I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying that the presentation as such
No,
becomes
what I am
lopsided.
saying is they could have had people on the ground so that they did not need the degree of trust that
So
you
in the
otherwise
past,
might.
in the past occurrences, so particularly in 2018, which we'll have to table at some point to go into further and discuss what we can tell about that. There was a precursor to Trump pulling out of the JPCOA, which was Israel releasing an intel dump that they had reportedly procured through a massive espionage campaign. And this intel showed secret activities that Iran reportedly and purportedly had been hiding from inspectors by claiming that certain facilities that inspectors would have wanted to look at had no nuclear activity whatsoever. And while it wasn't enrichment or items like that, it was certainly research that was not part of the agreement.
Okay, so let me ask you something else.
Sure.
Let's accept that everything is deception and they're always lying and the JCPOA didn't work and yada yada.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say, in addition, that they showed up and they signed a new deal that said we won't enrich at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you trust that?
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not telling you. I'm not.
If we're going to the point where we're saying, yes, the IAEA said that they were complying with the JCPOA. Yes, everybody, everybody was everybody except for one specific country in the Middle East, like Dan Bongino likes to say the opposite. But everybody else pretty much agrees that
do not mistake.
We're
do not
really kind of going along with it.
Do not mistake my
I hear you.
discussing that as saying there was good ideas, because obviously it's a mess. So
I understand. But all I'm saying is, if you're gonna take the point of view that it doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't matter how much they lie, it doesn't matter how much visibility. There's we're still gonna say guilty until proven innocent, but they can't prove their innocence. That is a one-way street that goes to regime change, and ultimately it's a joke, because what you're saying is, if I don't like your regime, I will say that it's a nuke thing, and I will take you down. So build a nuke immediately, or else,
Well, no, and that's all. That's been part of
the level of goading, right? So that you're safe. So because if you're at the Ayatollah level of goading, you're not safe.
This is not to say you're wrong. I want to ask a question, though, to probe the potential limits of the direction you're on, because you are correct. There are absolute incentive structures to say, listen, if you don't cooperate, we're going to overthrow you, and if you do cooperate, we're still going to overthrow you. With Libya and Gaddafi actually cooperated. Right. Well, Gaddafi did cooperate. So from that standpoint on, if in the onset of this short war, we'll call it, or the attack, we're saying, well, now Iran has the motivation. Well, why didn't they after Libya? Like, what was the thing that prevented them from doing it? Unless we're pulling up some good graces.
That the European and American, Colossus could be reasoned with for some reason.
Even though Libya would have given them a reason to think otherwise.
Well, Libya is not Iran. Like, they're very different countries. Like, sorry, there is.
So then we're not demonstrating to anyone who's not Iran currently.
Sorry.
If Iran's takeaway from Libya was that we're not Libya, therefore it doesn't apply to us exactly the same way, then we can't necessarily apply what's happening to Iran to the considerations of any other state actors.
What I'm saying is they. I was about to tell you the next part.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you prematurely.
It wasn't just that the West did not want them to have a nuclear weapon. it was that Russia and China did not want them to have a nuclear weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's not like, you know, the BRICS was on one side and sort of the West was on the other, and you know, the only concern that Iran has is those guys, right? Because Russia and China still do not want proliferation. They did, for all I can tell, try to keep North Korea from having a weapon. And then there was all sorts of other fuck ups there, which you'll find hilarious if we ever get to them. But basically, the U.S. did exactly the same thing to North Korea. But anyway, the problem is that with the collapse in trust, I don't know if Russia and China will maintain that veto to Iran internally. I'm not talking about like the Supreme, the Security Council vote. I'm talking about in practice, what do they want now, given what happened? Right? Will they help them? Right? Because there is another way to do this quickly, which is to just give them a couple. You know, they're like, look, you guys proved that you are tough and you can take a Libya level attack. And you know, yes, you looked a little bit like you were going to be down for a couple of days there, but you seem to have picked yourselves up, and you know, you're still there. So now we will grant you the next level of respect, or not. And by the way, something that has not been reported in the West at all. Apparently, there's like only one newspaper publication of this. Is that in the immediate next days after the conflict ended, the defense ministers of Russia, China, India, Pakistan, Iran were all in Shanghai having a meeting. This was previously arranged.
Was it about Pakistan's nomination of Trump for the World Nobel Peace Prize?
Could have been.
Okay.
They're like, Pakistan, you distract him with a peace prize. We gave them a nuke.
What a bizarre fucking world, man.
Anyway, but that's what I'm talking about. Like the block dynamics have changed, and have changed again since the attack, because it's being sort of made common knowledge that the West sees negotiations as a joke at this point. I mean, I don't know how else to articulate what I'm looking at. I'm depressed because this is my side, right? I don't want to move to China.
Of course.
But,
so I hope you it's coming across that I'm not in opposition to everything you're saying by any stretch. That I believe that I want to extract as much of the discussable complexity we can, just so that we make sure that we're not narrowing our view too much on anything.
I hear you, and I appreciate the conversation. I don't think we've gone anywhere near being.
I can just never tell. You can never tell what the other person's thinking, so I just want to,
No, and I appreciate the spaces. Like I realize not everybody is consuming the same material I am, and I'm trying to take the tack that, like, you are a reasonable person whose reason, your rationality I respect, and it's, if I can't explain it to you, I should think twice about it or something like that.
Okay, well, that's a positive compliment there. Thank you very much for that. So while we wrap up,
as opposed to my negative compliment.
Well,
sorry, keep going.
I should have said indirect compliment. So let's say, let's open up for requests as we wind this down, because we could go on for way too long. This is just such a thick topic, and both you and I have been, thinking a lot about it. So let's open it up for some, comments if people have it while we wind this down. I want to continue while we wind it down to just stress that there's so many complications. The premature declaration that there's not going to be a world war is not to be too redundant, is premature. It's there's the
Can I throw you another curveball in this whole mess?
I certainly would love more curveballs.
Absolutely. Okay, so what if I told you that there was a 2009 report by the Brookings Institute, which was called "Which Way to Persia," Okay. And that report analyzed in which way the Iran issue could be handled or should be handled. And it involves all sorts of options like, JCPOA style options when the IAEA get involved, etc. But there is one option, 4C, which is titled, and I'm not kidding you, this is the actual title, Leave It to Bibi. And that option talks about Israel going in first to attack Iran on some provocation that will be manufactured. That they'll find some reason basically that Iran did something. And then apparently it said that Israel was expected to have a good time window of the first couple of days until the Iranian air defenses bounce back, which I don't know how they would predict that, but okay.
They do simulations in war games and stuff, so they come up with these things all the time.
Sure, okay. And then the U.S. would come in, potentially, maybe, right? And blah blah blah. Anyway, long story short,
you wrote down. You wrote down the names of everyone who was participating in that, and looked at all the stocks that they have, right? And you started to then make sure you followed all the trades, right? This is what you did, right?
Well, one of them is dead, so not his trades. He made a bad one. But what I looked at is if those people were in the administration, and they're not. And I'm not saying necessarily, there's one group that will say like, well, because that's the regime, the deep state announcing its playbook, and
well, then there's also the stochastic part of it, which is the person who sends the old person who sends predictions on the sporting events every week, but he sends different predictions to everybody so that just by sheer combinatorics.
It's like a very specific institution, and they.
We've mentioned Brookings numerous times on here because it has all of our favorite characters as being descendants of it. It's
yeah, it's not some rando that I'm now digging up some
No, I'm just saying that in any given thing you're gonna find weird. I mean, how many times on Twitter has a weird event occurred where some random account tweeted out one day?
And my naive interpretation, like not my good interpretation of this, is not too dissimilar from yours, which is that the power players being who they are, and the variables being what they are, and the US's behavior and sort of attitudes, et cetera, being what it is. And presuming that those people know what the system works like, there's only going to be so many options about how this is.
Someone's going to nail it decently well, where all of the errors we're going to ignore and only focus on the spot-ons.
So at that point, you can, it wasn't that they said one thing. Again, they said multiple options, right? Which I made sure to clarify. You're going to get very close to mapping out the universe. And at that point, you're close to luck. The fact that Bibi was the same prime minister at the time and now.
But did they timestamp this? Or did they just say some point in the future?
No, they didn't. This was not a prediction. This was this was worded as advice to the U.S. government what to do.
Well, okay, but advice on a short-term scale, or just someday in the future.
It was just. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't about when or anything like that. It was just mapping out the options. Well, right, and you could follow all of them, which apparently the U.S. seems to have done. You can follow some of them. You could order them differently. You could mix them up.
So let me play back on this.
Like when you go to McKinsey, right, and you ask for what to do about a problem, they're like, well, here's what you got. Here's your options.
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say. Like here's a situation where it's like there's millions of plans drawn up all over the place. People have different ideas about different contingencies, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to stress is that there's contingencies and ideas and mappings all over the place, and you can have a situation where it's like, okay, here is our current situation. What do we have? And instead of doing everything from scratch all the time, you go, well, here's what we did numbers of years ago. Here's an analysis. Let's look at this, and there could be aspects of it that aren't necessarily like to the T, we're going to follow a nefarious plan, but aspects of an analysis that may have influenced a particular thing like that where they're pulling that information off the shelf and saying, well, this is the analysis that we did at this point in time, and then you're sort of making decisions based off of previous analyses, right? Like,
yeah, it's just that my sense is that there's not like that many of these. Like, it's not the sort of thing where there's like 20 that I can talk about.
Picking Benjamin Netanyahu's, hyper specific, obviously, and your military conditions.
But he must have been that's what I'm saying. He must have been the prime minister of Israel at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that he's also right now. Right. So that's that's why they said leave it to be. But the last thing I would say, however, is that I gave that report to GPT and I said, okay, given that they wrote this and that whatever happened, what will happen next? Okay, that's the interesting question to me, because it said basically three things. First of all, the IAEA will try to get back in there, which you demonstrated with that guy's quote. Number two, that what matters is three things, which we have been discussing. So you can be assured we are discussing the important things. One, how much damage was done. Two, what is the solidity of the regime, of the Iranian internal government. So on those factors, everything else will hang. And I will add a third variable, which is how do the dynamics between Iran and Russia and China evolve, because here's another thing that many people are probably not aware
that
of.
Russia would be bogged down in Ukraine at the time?
No. Okay. Though there was another one. There was another report by the Rand Institute that was talking about overextending Russia. So make of that what you will. But one thing I will say again that most people are not aware of, the fact that there is complexity on the other side of the fence always, is that Putin came out, I think even before the peace treaty was, or whatever, the cessation of hostilities occurred. I'm told, by the way, technically what we have is not a ceasefire, because a ceasefire has an agreement that is signed, and this has nothing. So the technical term for this is a cessation of hostilities. They've just stopped firing at each other, basically. That's where we are. Just so we're clear. There's no ceasefire. There's no terms. There's no monitoring of anything. It's just that they've stopped shooting.
Which we failed to go into the bizarre declaration of Trump's ceasefire, where it was Israel got to attack for an extra 12 hours.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Sorry, the thing I was trying to get at is that Putin said, and this is very interesting for Putin himself to go out and make a statement. He didn't put Medvedev to do it. He did it himself. He said, Iran is a hard country to help because we had offered them a defense pact and they had said no. So Iran and Russia have recently signed a pretty expansive cooperation treaty, but apparently the Russians were pushing for it to have a mutual defense pact like the one that they signed with North Korea recently. And what Putin said is that the Iranians said no. And then a representative of the Russian government, I don't remember his name now, was asked, what's next? And he basically said, whatever our Iranian friends want, whatever they're willing to take from us, we are willing to give to them. So basically the offer is still on the table. We'll see. But, these are the important factors to me.
I'm guessing nobody has requested to speak. Is that correct?
Oh, no, we do have a request. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. Donald J. Trump, the other, we have the most presidents to speakers of any forum other than the former Presidents Association or something.
Nice. Very nice. Donald J. Trump, go ahead if you can find your mute button.
Oh, sorry. I'm having trouble today. This whole thing keeps breaking up for me and coming back in. We're having crazy weather out here. So I just had a couple things on the Iran thing. One was, I don't know if you guys went through it last week or not. Maybe I missed it. The possibility that Israel basically attacked without warning the U.S. Because if you look at the direction of Trump's tweets, he was doing a lot of cheerleading, but he wasn't actually offering any visible support, like physical support and weapons or U.S. posturing, until basically Netanyahu came back and publicly begged the United States to help. Which comes to the second possibility, and this is something I actually think, is that Iran was actually winning as days went on, Iran was starting to penetrate the defenses. Israel's running out of ammo. And if you look at the timing of Iranian attacks later on, they were basically spaced out to where they were forcing the Israeli economy to shut down for periods of time because people were going to have to run the bomb shelters. And if you really look at the attacks, Iran was being very, how would I say, very gracious in a way. Because, I mean, if I'm Iran and I want to hurt Israel.
Does gracious make sense to you in an analysis?
Well, it kind of does in a military analysis. Like, if I'm going to really hurt Israel, I'm going to blow up all their desalination plants.
You don't believe that there's a potential that anything that you can perceive as graciousness was possibly due to internal confusion, conflict capability, or something like that? Because if we assume that the Israel strikes were, not anticipated in timing, and that their ability to take out many of the initial strong weaponry and military intel caused great confusion and lack of available immediate response plans, is graciousness the most readily available interpretation of any sort of counterattack?
Well, I don't know. Maybe restraint might be the other way of putting it. But if you're Iran, you get hit like that and you really want to hurt them, you're going to start knocking out infrastructure projects.
If you can.
Especially water-related ones. Well, but they proved they could penetrate the defenses. And if you look at kind of what they were shooting.
Strategic accuracy?
Yes.
Well, that's the question.
Yes, first of all, one thing that you can know for a fact that things were happening is that Israel put the kibosh, I don't know if that's Yiddish, but I hope it is, on any information going out about any strikes, any videos, anything for days. And then we saw what happened, and it was a lot of stuff, including airports, ports, but not.
Sure, I don't imagine that they didn't suffer or incur damage. That is not something that I have any skepticism of,
I'm just telling you, like they kept demonstrating that they were able to hit from 1,000 miles or whatever.
But they also lobbed such a wide sort of response that the idea that you can attack the entire surface area and then call it strategic precision is a little interesting.
That's not what happened. Yeah, I don't think you have that analysis. I think you're just repeating stuff you've heard.
Okay.
Sorry, Donald J. Trump. I just intervened so I can shortcut some of the conversation, but keep going.
Well, that was just kind of my thing is when you sit there and you start thinking about the fact that they're having to go to bunkers, you are effectively shutting down the Israeli economy for several hours at a time, which creates disruptions. And when you're talking about a nation of 88 to 92 million people versus what's Israel? I think 7. You're talking in land area and the land. The what?
Israeli Jews are 7 million. There's 2 million Palestinian Israelis, and anyway, it depends on how you count it. But
right, but you're talking about a 10-time disparity around there, and 9 to 10 time disparity, and you're talking also territory disparity. So you're right. Even let's pretend you aren't doing strategic precision. That's almost worse. Because at that point, everyone has to go to shelter.
Sure.
And you're basically creating that economic backlog, and the country's so small you can do that, whereas you really can't do that with Iran, even with a wide ranging bombing campaign.
Right.
So I think over long term, the attrition goes in favor of Iran.
So the issue I have with that particular angle is that it presumes that there was this response from Iran was unanticipated, and that if Israel were to have been unable to sustain that this was something that they didn't have any planning for, which just seems counter to my intuition about the pre-planning that would have gone into the attack in the first place. It's not like they only had an offensive plan and then had no concept about the possible economic repercussions.
Gator, and unfortunately, what it really seems like is that they had a one strong punch, and it was really big, and they killed a bunch of people and they did a lot of stuff in the first couple of days. But then as it stabilized, it was a default L for Israel to continue. So they had to call daddy.
Difference in perspective and knowledge.
I'd say that the thing is they were planning on the U.S. to actually intervene, like get in there quicker. And I think what happened was when Trump said, "Yeah, go," and just said, "No, you do it. I'm going to just cheer you on." That kind of threw them for a loop.
So just so we're
Anyway,
clear, while I have my position, it doesn't mean that I am not receiving what you're saying with an open mind.
Oh no, I'm receiving you too. I'm not angry or anything. It's good combo.
I'm just making sure that it's clear that even though that I have the current position, it's not me rejecting any idea that perhaps.
The thing you have to consider is whether Israel knows that the U.S. is only going to let things get so bad for it, right? So it always has that fallback, and if it doesn't, it has nukes. So that's always there, right? So there are at least two plans that they could have had. Are you saying that they had a plan that they were able to keep Iran down in a prolonged missile war of attrition? No, that makes no sense. They're a much smaller country, both in population and definitely in area. You can't.
I certainly am not of the opinion that there could have been some sort of lengthy, deep-going interstate conflict that would have, or international conflict rather, state, national, using them interchangeably there. That could have been prolonged, and that they could do that dance with the bunkers indefinitely. But my statement involves the idea that the premise at the moment appears to be that in such a short period of time, they couldn't have possibly anticipated that they'd be sending their people underground, such that their economy was at risk of collapsing or something. So they had to give up. Now the running out of ammunitions thing, I grant you, could have been something where they decided that the correct route was further encouragement of the United States to get involved, to delay something that will have another round in the future. That I am far more on board with, because that's actually partially what I think occurred. I sort of push back against the idea that they're on the risk of losing, like, just outright, and that's why they did that.
Well, as far as like long, good.
No. I mean, you have to, if you are open to the idea that Iran was on the verge of losing outright, you have to be open to the idea that it could have happened the other way. I realize it's unheard of. But
I haven't. I do believe that
much was unheard of.
I do believe that it would have been possible, particularly with a little additional U.S. involvement, that the Iranian regime itself could have been taken out, in the sense that the infrastructure would have been damaged enough to cause more of a chaotic situation where no one was seemingly in control, and there was a fight for leadership and control that sort of devolved into a civil war. That, I believe, was absolutely in the cards.
I think you overestimate what missiles can do. Honestly, Russia has been bombing Ukraine with missiles, sending 100 missile volleys every month, roughly, since the conflict started. Arguably, maybe they could have been going harder, but like that's been happening.
So when we try to assassinate the actual upper leadership of a non-nuclear state and say that anticipate no instability, I will cede the point. But when we use Russia, which is a nuclear armed state, I kind of have to go.
I'm saying Russia
talking past each other.
Ukraine. What I'm saying is Russia is bombing Ukraine every month with about 100 missiles per month.
Right. And there's probably some sort of red line where if they actually assassinated, the Zelensky, that we would have a particularly.
So then I'll tell you what Israel has said, which you may doubt, and I might doubt too. But they said that they were trying to kill the Ayatollah and failed. And then he went into hiding, and then they couldn't get it.
Okay.
That's what they said. Trump said he's protected him, and that he should be grateful to him, and he owes him his life. So
have you seen?
I don't know.
Have you seen Trump's Dungeons and Dragons dice? They're actually loaded so that they always roll 20.
That's right.
When he does a protection spell.
I will explain to you how quantum suicide proves the theory of evolution.
Since even though I can't see a single person inside the space, I did see a bubble for a request, so I hit yes. So whoever is on stage right now, go ahead and offer the opinion while we close this out.
Tell us your thoughts.
Up.
Probux 1.
All right.
Probux
Sorry,
2.
Probux. Well,
Probux has a voice that I have a hard time telling apart from Donald J. Trump. So.
Unfortunately, this is such a long discussion that we'll never probably finish it in any one go. There's a lot I still have on my list. Obviously, I never finish these things. I wanted to talk about possible futures involving, the Iranian regime staying for the long term, possible ones where there's additional instability or a second push for, regime destabilization / trying to spark a revolution. I did a lot of narrowing down of various demographic questions. So I had a lot prepared to go on that. Obviously, it's way too much. So we'll table some of that for next week.
I'm sorry, could I butt in? I just had some headphone issues.
Go ahead.
So I'm not on headphones. I don't know how the audio is, but when we talk about possibly being able to do regime change or causing a civil war in Iran, what is the objective in that scenario? Because I wouldn't consider that a USA win or an Israel win either if that occurred, because there are a lot of different things that Iran could have done. Like they didn't, if the Hormuz Strait got messed up, mined, and Iran's retaliation on oil, what that would do to the global economy. I mean, it could get really, really bad.
Fantastic question.
And,
that we cannot do in the next 10 minutes. But that is actually it's a perfect question, because that is something that I am insistent that we eventually try to talk to, which is why I was just mentioned. I don't know if you could hear me.
Why don't we consider doing a midweek episode? Because I think about this a lot. It's probably worthwhile. I enjoy pushing back and forth. But what I will say, maybe, and this might help us close the conversation out for now, is that I think we were both coming maybe from opposite directions, but I think we both think this isn't over, or this is not necessarily over.
Correct.
We both think that Israel doesn't particularly care to build a successful Iranian society, but would love to wreck them.
I'm not as 100% sold on that, but go ahead.
Okay. Or at least it is much more plausible that you can wreck something than you can build it back up.
It's much easier. There we go. You have my full buy on that. Yeah.
All right. So you might say maybe 5% they can have a prosperous future, but 99% they're not going to be a problem. So then that's what we care about. Okay. Anyway, but so I think on these two things that they don't. Let me put it this way: they don't need to nation build in order to succeed. All they need to do is make Iran not a problem, and that includes everything from a Western aligned Shah in place to open air slave markets, and that's all fine so long as it's not a problem. It is a W potentially, and also that it's not over yet.
Let me slightly push back without trying to risk continuing a lengthier discussion that we'll table. Just slightly push back on that one little thing you snuck in, is that the idea that you could have that type of environment that also wouldn't be a risk, inviting fragmented units of, let's just call it terrorism for lack of better term, that would still be a problem, that would wind up having finances from other sources and things like that, is a little bit too blithe for me. So.
I want to make extremely clear. I'm not talking about the point of view of you, me, or even the average Israeli citizen. I'm talking about the point of view that a military scenario planner in Tel Aviv or Washington is looking at.
You believe that might be a contingency that they would be worth they think would be advantageous or worthwhile.
We'll deal with that when we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
I'm sure. Is
All right.
their approach.
Okay.
I don't think they'd be prepared for a 400,000 troop invasion just to secure the Hormuz Strait, maybe to guard the oil from, like you said, lack of better words, terrorists, which I would, call it that way. But just from the average American perspective, I just don't see how that's even possible.
Yeah, maybe we'll consider a midweek thing, Alex. We can discuss that because to start talking about this because again, not to try to create a new discussion, but like there is so much to talk about with definitely even just on a political side. If there were to be a revolution, the number of different factions and the number of different activity that could be relegated as terrorism that could wind up having support just because we would be on the side of the rebels at that point in time, politically speaking, or, encouraging them on. Like, people just sometimes do not think about that in advance. So,
on occasion, that's been it's been known to happen. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll do a midweek one. Follow me and Gator, and we'll possibly talk about it if this is something that you have the pain tolerance for, or maybe this will make it to YouTube. Gator, what do you think?
I think I have the very complex, complicated, pristine recording solution working this week. We'll find out afterwards.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for giving us your ears. So far. Hopefully,
thank you, Alex. Everyone have a great dumb week.
Somewhat useful. Thank you. Bye.